mountain, I look down and see a world I was once underneath. I stand on this mountain and I look down by mine. There's more than it once knew. Then I knew. Then I knew. Then I knew. Then I knew. Now you're here. You're here. You're there. Now everywhere with me. If this is lost, then there's no place I'd rather be than found me see. Found me see. I climb down this mountain and I look around just to see that everyone used to be me. I climb down this mountain and I look around my mind, embracing more than the truth, than the truth, than the truth, than the truth, than the truth. Now you're here, you're here, you're there. Now everywhere with me. If this is lost, then there's no place I'd rather be. Found me sing. Found me sing. I once was blind, but now I see the beauty of the world before me. Now you're there. Now everywhere with me. If this is lost, then there's no place I'd rather be. Now you're here, you're there. Now everywhere with me. If this is lost, then there's no place I'd rather be than found me sing. Found me sing. Found me sing. Found me sing.
Hey y'all, how's everybody doing
Hello.
tonight? So we got Joseph Hammond. Hello, welcome in, Joseph. Thank you so much for being here. Kimber was number 2. Please like, subscribe, share this out. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss the live. We got Jessica in the house. Arctic's in the house. Wisdom's in the house. Make sure I don't miss anybody. We got Abigail Carpenter. Welcome in, honey. Stormy, thank you for being here. Southern Gal True Crime is in the house. Thank you so much for being here, Miss Dawn. Oh, looky here. We got Lisa Joe. What is up, girl? Thank you for being here. There's Klein in the house. Thank you so much for being here, Klein. Drifty, thank you for being here. Thank you guys all for being here tonight. So we're doing just a little bit of different live tonight. And I know it seems kind of off the subject matter, but it's kind of not off the subject matter when you really think about it. It's really not, because What were the Salem witch trials based on? Jealousy? Misinformation? Hatred? Would you agree, Kimber?
Huh? Your volume seems a little low, or is it just me?
It shouldn't be low. It should be the same thing it always is.
Hang on, let me see me.
Dawn says 100%.
Maybe it's just me.
Did you turn it up?
I did turn it up.
Can you hear better now?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
I said the Salem witch trials are kind of along the same lines of what we do and what we advocate for. And the Salem witch trials were based upon hatred, jealousy, misinformation.
Yes,
Would you
they
agree?
were. I agree.
Oh, looky here. Southern Girl says history repeats itself, doesn't it?
Yep.
Doesn't it? And what century are we in? What year are we in? And we're seeing this again. Welcome in, Jips. Thanks so much for being here. She says, my 9th great-grandmother, Elizabeth Howe, was hung on 7/19/1692. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, wow,
It's
Jips.
an honor to have you in chat. But I kind of felt like this follows along with kind of the mission statement we try to put out of not, being a dirtbag or misinformation or getting jealous over someone else that might get more views than you, or might get more super chats than you, or might get more attention than you, and then you want to attack that person, or you want to say nasty things in the background, or whatever the case may be. So I thought, your grand aunt, I'm so sorry, honey, I did misread it. She says my grand aunt. Still, either way, we're honored to have you here in chat tonight. Thank you so much for being here. Hi, Stormy. Did I not say hi to you, love? I thought I did.
Yeah, and
Kimber,
this
can you keep
actually
them
goes
occupied
along
for 2 seconds?
And this actually goes along too, Mom, with the speculation. Because it creates what can speculation create? Mob mentality. It can create all the things. So, yeah. And it repeats itself. Yep.
Yes, I agree. The speculation nation as well.
And speculation only hurts the people, the families.
Okay, sorry about that. But yeah, I really thought it was season appropriate, if you will. Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for being here. I just thought it was season appropriate thing to talk about tonight, and it's sad. It's really sad, but this country was supposed to be based on freedom and freedom of thought and freedom of right, and all these things that were supposed to be better than the country that the people that came from. You know, this was supposed to be a country for free, where you could have free will and live in the land of the free, the new world. And they did leave out a lot of the old beliefs, but sadly this was one thing that was carried across the sea. Does anybody know? Well, we already have the year in here, so does anybody know how long the witch trials lasted? Hi, Rondi. Kimber, do you know?
I would have to ask Dr. Google for that one.
The witch trials lasted for a year. A year. Stormy says, I know a little bit, not a lot. Butterfly Kisses, thank you so much for being here tonight. Yeah, a year. Very sad. It's a very sad thing. Very sad thing that, you know, this was supposed to, like I said, this was supposed to be a refuge and be able to have your own thoughts and your own opinion and your own thing. And it got lost somewhere between getting on a ship and sailing across, I guess. Sorry, I'm trying to do something over here in the background. I thank you guys for your patience. I'm usually all set and ready to go. My son called, so give me just a second here. Cannot find said person. There he is. Okay.
Thank you, Chris. My email should be on there. I think it's on there, but thank you very much.
All right. Did I miss anything? You would have guessed longer. Yep, look here. Jip says 1693. I keep wanting to say 19. 1693. 1693. And today it is 2025. And we still have the same thing. OMFG, YouTube won't let me say that I wanted to go to Salem. I don't have any words blocked, so I don't know why it's doing that. It shouldn't have blocked anything. It shouldn't have blocked anything. And so the first thing that I want to share tonight is going to be just a small little document here that we're going to look at real quick. 6 times. That's crazy. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry about that, Lisa. It's had to have been YouTube because I don't have anything blocked on my side. I am not monetized, so it's not set up to, Nightbot doesn't even have any commands where it can alter my my chat. I don't know why it likes to attack Mikey, but I modded him so that way that would stop. Okay, so this is the Salem Witch Trials Documentary Archive and Transcript Project. Overview of the Salem Witch Trials. And like I said, this is going to be a little small thing here. It says the Salem witchcraft events began in late February 1692 and lasted through April of 1693. All told, at least 25 people died, 19 were executed by hanging, 1 was tortured to death, and at least 5 died in jail due to harsh conditions. Over 160 people were accused of witchcraft. Most were jailed, and many were deprived of property and legal rights. Accused persons lived in a town of Salem and Salem Village, now Danvers, and in 24 of other towns in eastern Massachusetts Bay Colony. Nearly 50 people confessed to witchcraft, most to save themselves from immediate trial. Hundreds of people in the Bay Colony, neighbors, relatives, jurors, ministers, magistrates, were caught up in the legal proceedings of the trials. In October of 1692, Governor William Phipps ended the special witchcraft court in Salem. Accusations soon abated and eventually stopped. In January, the new Superior Court of the Justice began to try remaining cases and eventually cleared the jails. After the Salem witch trials, no one was convicted of witchcraft in New England during the Salem witch trials. More people were accused than executed than in all previous witchcraft trials in New England. And then this is some other news and things. I don't know, Lisa, that's really frustrating. Okay, so this is the Salem news. I don't think it has anything archived in it. This is all 2025. But just to show the link source of where it came from, I will no longer be putting, I hate to do this, but sometimes you just have to do the things that you don't want to do. So I will no longer be putting links in the description of my research. I will now be putting them in a private link in Discord. And if someone would like the links that I found through my research to host my live, they're more than welcome to reach out to me and I will provide that. But I will no longer be putting links in the description unless it is a link tree or something to a missing case. Thank you, Avery, for being here. Okay, let me see. I'm going to stop that for a second so I can get our next thing pulled up here.
Hey, Avery.
I apologize, guys. I'm usually all ready for this, and as soon as I hit the live button, 900 things took place. Okay, pull up the next thing I had ready for you guys. I had to move around my Discord a little bit here. Give me just a second. And I do hate to have to do it like that, but that's how we're going to have to do it, because I don't mind sharing my research, because we all have the World Wide Web. We're able to do research that we weren't able to do, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, 400 years ago. However, I'm not going to build content for someone else's channel. It's not going to happen. And I'm going to leave it at that. But I will provide link sources for anyone that wants to reach out to me. I will always have those saved, and you're welcome to reach out and say, hey, is this where you found this? I'm going to run this. Maybe a shout out. Hey, Mom ran this. I'm going to run this kind of thing.
Yes, because we all have the world at our fingertips and we can all do that research.
It takes time to do research. It takes time away from families and all the real life things. So I will no longer be putting those in the description, and I'm not going to dwell on it. I just want that to be well known that they will no longer be there. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. The Salem witch trials are a series of hearings and prosecution of people accused of witchcraft. In the original Colonel, Massachusetts, between February 1692 and May 1693. More than 200 people were accused. 30 people were found guilty, 19 of whom were executed by hanging. 14 women and 5 men. Did you guys know that there were men?
I think I do recall hearing that there were men also.
Arctic says, amen. It takes a lot of time to research these cases. It does. It does. Sometimes it can take up to 5 hours to grab 45 minutes of content where you have to fill the rest of it in with knowledge and other things. Avery says she didn't know there were men. Arctic says he knew there were men. And Dawn says she never knew there were men. Also, my 9th great aunt and her 8th great grandfather were accused but not hanged. Well, thank you so much, Jips, for being here. We're honored to have you in chat. Thank you so much. And all of your input is appreciated. Chris says he kind of remembers there were men. Generally, when you hear about witchcraft or the witch trials, it's predominantly women, because that's what most of the pictures and things that were, well, they would have been drawn, like you saw on the thumbnail, they would have been drawn, are generally women.
No,
so that's generally what comes to mind.
I'm sorry. That is generally true, because most of the drawings that you see from the Salem witch trials, they are drawn as women.
Mm-hmm.
You don't hardly see any men drawn in the Salem witch trials. You do not.
No, not hardly at all, unless you're a weirdo like me that has done a lot of research, watched a lot of documentaries, and did all the things on witchcraft.
But let me ask you. I thought that they burned some at the stake. Did they not?
Some were drowned, some were hung, some were burned. It just depended on where they were at. Yes, warlocks. Okay. Yeah, generally men are known as warlocks. Absolutely.
Right, warlocks.
Lisa says, I'm getting vetted for a group that needs researchers, and one of the tasks was to find the person who I was talking to me's real name. I did it in like 2.5 hours. Research is time consuming. That's awesome, Lisa. Congratulations to you. And yes, it is. It's very time consuming. But we all knew you were a super sleuth. You'd find it. Yeah, warlocks and witches. Absolutely. Hanged, laugh out loud. It drives me bonkers when people say hung. Yeah, I'm country. They was hanged. Some held down with heavy stones. Yep, absolutely. And some of the trials and stuff that they use, you freaked her out a little. Well, she ought to know she was messing with a super sleuth, Lisa. Welcome, Minnie, with your, was that chicken wings?
Yeah, that was Gibbs wings.
Chicken wings. And I'm going to finish reading this article.
Welcome to, hey, hi. How art thou? Oh,
it's chicken wing.
Yeah, I need to change
Words
that.
are hard.
No, I want you to make me some chicken wings now.
Let's see here. Oh, I can't change it while I'm in the. That's fine.
I don't know if you can change it while you're on panel or not.
I can, I believe.
Avery says, I fought a teacher in college. I got marked off for writing hung. It was, I hung up the phone, learned real quick, it's hanged. So I drilled it into my brain. That's funny, Avery. All right. So let me finish up this article here. It says, 19 of whom which were executed by hanging, 14 and 5 men. Other men, Giles Corey, died under torture as refusing to enter a plea, and at least 5 people died in disease-ridden jails. And you have to think, this was the times before we had penicillin. Before the, I can't think of his name, but the guy that figured out that mold had medical properties to it. Sorry, y'all. Words are hard tonight.
That would be Mr. Pasteur, I think. Louis Pasteur.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Arrests were made in numerous towns beyond Salem Village, known today as Danvers. It is a regional center, Salem town, notably as Andover and Topsfield. The grand juries and the trials for capital crime were conducted by the Court of Oyer and Termer in 1692 by the Superior Court of Justice. In 1693, both held in Salem town, where the hangings also took place. It was the deadliest witch hunt in the history of colonial North America. 14 other women and 2 men were executed in Massachusetts and Connecticut during the 17th century. The Salem witch trials only came to end when serious doubts began to arise among leading clergymen about the validity of the spectral evidence that had been used to justify so many convictions, and due to the sheer number of those accused, including several prominent citizens of the colony. In the years after the trials, several of the accusers, mostly teenage girls, admitted that they had fabricated their charges. In 1702, the General Court of Massachusetts declared the trials unlawful, and in 1711, the Massachusetts legislature annulled the convictions, passing a bill mentioning 22 individuals by name and reversing their attenders. The episode is one of the colonial America's most notorious cases of mass hysteria. It was unique. It was not unique, but the colonial manifestation of much broader phenomenon of the witch trials in early modern period, which took the lives of tens of thousands in Europe. In America, Salem's events had been used as a political rhetoric and popular literature as vivid cautionary tale about the dangers of isolation, religious extremism, false accusations. I'm going to say that again for those in the bushes. False accusations and lapses in due process. Many historians consider the lasting effects of the trials have been highly influential in the history of the United States. According to the historian George Lincoln Burr, the Salem witchcraft was the rock on which New England theocracy shattered. At the 300th anniversary, events were held in 1992 to commemorate the victims of the trials. A park was dedicated in Salem of a memorial in Danvers in 1957, and an act passed by a Massachusetts legislator absolved 6 people, while 1 other passed in 2001, absolved 5 other victims as of 2004. There was still talk about exonerating or pardoning all the victims. In 2022, the latest convicted Salem witch, Elizabeth Johnson Jr., was officially exonerated 329 years after she had been found guilty. In January 2016, the University of Virginia announced its Gallows Hill project team had determined the execution site of Salem, where the 19 witches, using my quotey fingers, had been hanged. The city is dedicated to Prosper's Ledge Memorial to the victims there in 2017. I'm going to stop and run through chat.
I was
Alexander
totally,
Fleming.
Louis. Yeah, it was Alexander Fleming. I was totally wrong. Louis Pasteur was pasteurization, like pasteurization. He was not penicillin.
Hi, Molly. Molly says, "Hey, everyone. Mama's doing a live about me."
I'll just sit down over here with the penicillin.
Drifty, he says, but it was not until 1928 that penicillin, the first antibiotic, was discovered by Alexander Fleming, the professor of bacteriology at St. Mary's Hospital in London. Wisdom says, Lisa Joe, I taught hang, hung. Thank you so much for that information. Stormy's laughing over here. Are you laughing at my words are hard? This is such an interesting part of history to me. It is a very interesting part of history to me. Elizabeth was never exonerated because she was already hanged. So sad. It is so sad. Crime Curious, welcome in. Says, lurking and working double shift today. Thank you for being the voices in my head. You're very welcome. Thank you so much for being here, love. We love it when you lurk and work. This was actually resigned for advance in microbiology. Oh, looky there.
Oh yeah,
So
he was
Lisa.
Lisa. He was a smart man.
Oh, now we have, what is that, an airplane? What the hell is that? Minnie,
What?
what is that? Is that
It's a
an
plane.
aerodynamic airplane?
It's a plane.
It's very planey.
I wouldn't dare tell you what I put in the prompt to make said plane, but it put out a perfectly shaped plane, like a plane, not the plane that I wanted, but a plane.
Mother can only be so proud. He's one
Uh,
of the fathers of microbiology. Isn't that what you do, Lisa? Microbiology? One of the many things that you do with all the hats that you wear? It's a pocket rocket.
Yes, Lisa is a microbiologist.
See, I do listen. I listen and I pay attention to you guys because I love you so much. Yeah, that's hilarious. It's a pocket rocket. Red rocket, pocket rocket, puckernats, all the things. Right, so the background. While the trials had begun to fade across much of Europe by mid-century, 17th century, they continued on the fringes of Europe and in the American colonies. The events of 1692 and 1693, I did it. Did y'all see that? Become a brief outburst of sort of hysteria in the New World, while the practice was already waning in most of Europe. In 1668, against modern, is that sadism?
sadism.
Claimed that it could prove the existence of witches and ghosts of the supernatural realm. Glanville wrote about the denial of the body resurrection and supernatural spirits. Does anybody know? So this is going to be Knowledge Night, Salem witch trials, and mom trivia. Does anybody in chat know or on panel who was the first person that made a spirit box? No, I don't think he created the pocket rocket, Lisa. No takers.
Did I
Nobody
create
knows?
a pocket rocket? Wait, what? I thought we were talking about spirit
God.
boxes.
No, it was not Louis Plaster. That's not who did it. Actually, a great idea for a pocket rocket we can hold on to. Oh my lord! Dang, I should know this. It was not Thomas Jefferson. It wasn't T-Rev. It wasn't Beetlejuice. Wrong answers only. It was Nikola Tesla. You're killing me over here. Yeah, that's your useless information from the evening. Nikola Tesla actually invented the world's very first spirit box. Some might say he was crazy. I need to read up more on this. It's very interesting, and I think it's really really interesting to go with tonight. And I'm going to share some useless information with you guys that I've learned over the years as well. So in his treatise, Granville claimed that indigenous men should believe in witches and apparitions. If they doubted the reality of spirits, they not only denied demons, but the Almighty God. Glanville wanted to prove that the supernatural could not be denied. Those who denied apparitions were considered heretics, for it also disproved their beliefs in angels. Works by men such as Glanville and Cotton Mather tried to prove that demons were alive. Hi, Taylor. Well, look what the world, look what they fucking unleashed to the world, right? Yeah, now we have ugly ass trucks driving around everywhere. Those are so ugly. I can't do the cyber trucks. Like, ugh, I see them all over town. They're just ugly. They're very ugly. And Craig has it can withstand nuclear or something or another, and and I don't care, they're ugly. All right, so recorded witchcraft executions in New England. The earliest recorded witchcraft execution was that of Elise Young in 1647 in Hartford, Connecticut. The start of the Connecticut witch trials, which lasted until 1663, historian Clarence F. Jewett included a list of other people executed in New England in his 1881 book. Political content. New England has been settled by religious dissenters seeking to build a Bible-based society according to those chose discipline. In the original 1629 Royal Charter of Massachusetts Bay Colony was vacated in 1684, after which King James II installed Sir Edmund Anros as the governor and the Dominion of New England. Anros was outside in 1689, and after the Glorious Revolution in England replaced the Catholic James II with the Protestant co-rulers William and Mary. Simon Bradstreet and Thomas Danforth, the colony's last leaders under the old charter, resumed their posts as governor and deputy governor. Colonists settling in eastward with the present-day coast of Maine and French-supported Wabanaki people of the territory who came to be known as King William's War. This was 13 years after the devastating King William's War, and the Wampanoag and other indigenous tribes in southern and western New England in October of 1690. Sir William Phelps led an unsuccessful attack on the French-held Quebec. Between 1689 and 1692, Native Americans continued to attack many English settlements along the Maine coast, leading to the abandonment of some of the settlements and resulting in flood of refugees into areas like Essex County. A new charter of the enlarged province of Massachusetts Bay were given a final approval in England in October, joining him in London and helping him gain a Whitehall. Increasing Mather and published a book on witchcraft in 1684, and his son Cotton Mather published one in 1689. Increase Mather brought a London edition of his book in 1690. Increase Mather claimed to have picked all of the men to be included in the new government. News of Mather's charter and the appointment of Phipps as the governor has reached by Boston's government on May 14th, and was sworn in as governor 2 days later, along with Lieutenant Governor William Stroughton. One of the first orders of business for the new governor and council on May 27th, 1692, was the formal nomination of the county justice of peace sheriffs and the commission of the special court oyer and terminer to handle large numbers of people who were thronging the jails. Okay. So here's a map. It'll take it a second to clear up. There's a map of the Salem village. And can we zoom in? Uh-oh, what'd I do? Over here pushing buttons. So this tells the different areas over here on the left-hand side. And then this was the village. You have Andover, Reading, Raleigh Village, Topsville, all the things on the edge here. Okay. Spirit phone. The first spirit box was invented by Tesla. Well, hello, Fuzzy Puff. Thank you so much for being here. Captain Jenks is in the house. Honored to have you in chat tonight. Thank you so much for coming over. We definitely appreciate you being here. Okay, we were way down here. I was over here pushing buttons and got us thrown out the window. Prior to the constitutional turmoil of the 1680s, the Massachusetts government had been dominated by the conservative Puritan leaders. While Puritans and the Church of England were both common influence of Calvinism, Puritans had opposite many of the transitions of the Church of England, including the Book of Common Prayer and the use of clergy vestments. During services to the use of the sign of the cross at baptism and kneeling to receive communion, all of which were believed constituted property in King Charles, and was hostile at this viewpoint. And the Anglican Church officials tried to repress these dissenting views during the 1620s and 1630s. Some Puritans became religious minorities and sought refuge in the Netherlands, but ultimately made a major migration to the colonial North America to establish their own society. These immigrants, who were mostly consultative families, established several of the earliest colonies in New England, of which Massachusetts Bay Colony was the largest and economically important. They intend to build a society based on their religious beliefs. Colonial leaders were elected by freemen of the colony, and those individuals had religious experiences formally examined and were admitted to one of the colony's Puritans' congregations. The colonial leadership and prominent members of their congregations are regularly constituted with local ministers and issuing the faces to the colony. In the early 1640s, England erupted in a civil war. And then it has the picture of the English Civil War on there. The Puritan-dominated parliamentarians emerged victorious, and the crown was supplanted by the proctorate of Oliver Cromwell in 1653. It led to the registration of the order under Charles II. Immigration of the Puritans, the New England, slowed significantly in these years in Massachusetts, and a successful merchant class began to develop, the less religiously motivated in the colony's settlers. Okay, make sure I didn't miss anything over here. Nope, we're just making sure everybody feels welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, so this is just going to go through a whole bunch of stuff we have already read about, the majority of this here. I'm not going to continue reading all that stuff. It's all just about this is one of the farmhouses, if it'll zoom up for us. This is the house where witchcraft started, now Danvers, Massachusetts. Okay. Oh, we don't want to see you. And this is present-day archaeological site of the Salem village. Okay, close this back out. In Salem village in February of 1692, Betty Paris, aged 9, and her cousin Abigail Williams, age 11, the daughter and niece of the respectfully and Reverend Samuel Paris, began to have fits described as beyond the power of epileptic fits or natural disease to affect John Hill. The minister of the nearby town of Beverly, the girls screamed, threw things around the room, uttered strange sounds, crawled under furniture, and contorted themselves into particular positions, according to eyewitnesses of the account of Reverend Donat Lawson and a former minister of the Salem village. The girls complained about being pinched and pricked with pins. A doctor historically assumed to be William Griggs could not find any physical evidence or ailment. Other young women in the village began to exhibit similar behaviors. When Lawson preached as a guest in the Salem village meeting house, he was interrupted several times by outbursts of the afflicted. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for making everybody feel welcome. I sent you something in Discord. Okay, Molly, I'll check it. Let's see. Stop for a second. I don't smoke on camera if you're new to the channel. 3 people were accused of the arrest of allegedly afflicting Betty Paris and Abigail Williams. 12-year-old Ann Putnam Jr. and Elizabeth Huthard were Sarah Good and Sarah Osborne and Tabidia. Some historians believe that the accusation by Ann Putnam Jr. suggests that the family feud had been a major cause of the witch trials at the time. A vicarious rivalry of underway between Putnam and the Porter families, one which deeply polarized the people of Salem. Citizens would often have heated debates and escalated into full-fledged fighting based solely on their opinions of the feud. Some of the physical symptoms resolved compulsive ergot poisoning. This was proposed 284 years later. Does anybody know what ergot poisoning is?
No idea.
Kimber, do you know what ergot poisoning is? No? Kimba? No? Did she fall asleep?
She might have went AFK for a moment. Sorry, I'm not really saying a whole lot tonight.
Mold and yeast, absolutely. Fuzzy Puff and Captain Jenks both for the win. You guys are smart. I'm loving it. I'm loving the chat interaction. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you more than you know. Sarah Good was a deluded woman and accused of witchcraft because of her reputation. At her trial, she was accused of rejecting the Puritan ideas of self-control and discipline when she chose torment and scorned children instead of leading them towards the path of salvation. Sarah Osborne rarely attended church meetings. She was accused of witchcraft because the Puritans and the Osborne had her own self-interest in mind. Her remarriage to an indentured servant, the citizens of the town disapproved by trying to control her son's inheritance from her previous marriage. Tituba, an enslaved South American Kalalian woman from the West Indies, likely became the target because of her ethnic differences from most other villages. She was accused of attracting girls like Abigail William and Betty Paris with stories of enchantment. These tales were about sexual encounters with demons, swaying the minds of fortune-telling, said that they simulate the imaginations of the girls and made Tituba an obvious target of accusations. Each of these women was kind of an outcast and exhibited many character traits typical of the usual suspects for witchcraft accusations. They were left to defend themselves, brought before the local magistrates of the complaint of witchcraft. They were interrogated for several days starting on March 1st, 1692, and sent to jail. In March, others were accused of witchcraft. Martha Corey, Child, Dory Good, Rebecca Nurse in Salem's Village, Rachel Clinton, and hereby Espich. Martha Corey expressed skepticism about the credibility of the girl's accusations, thus drawn attention. The charges against her and Rebecca Nurse deeply troubled the community because Martha Corey was a full convented member of the church in the Salem village, and Rebecca Nurse in the church of Salem town. It's such upstanding people could be witches. The townspeople thought that anybody could be a witch, and the church membership had no protection from accusation. Dorothy Good, the daughter of Sarah Good, was only 4 years old. 4 years old. PJ, welcome in. Oh, I went to Salem this Halloween. It was so fun there. Oh, I bet. I would love to go to Salem. Like, it's on my bucket list. Thank you so much for being here, PJ. I lost my spot. The initial examination included... Where was that? I done lost my damn spot, y'all. Here we go. She was 4 years old, but was exempted by question by the magistrates. Her answers were constructed as a confession that implicated her mother in aspects. Rachel Clinton was arrested for witchcraft at the end of March on independent charges unrelated to the afflictions of the girls in Salem Village. The initial examinations included physical exams where the accused were examined for unique markings such as moles, birthmarks that were commonly believed to be associated with the devil's influence. Make sure I didn't miss anybody. Hi, Jody. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, 4 years old, Lisa. Jody, Mama Bear's not in here. You might be in the wrong chat, love. Not that I've seen her. She's not normally up this late, so if I missed her, I apologize, but I don't think she's here tonight. Associated B with the devil's influence. It was thought that those markings represented the devil drinking the accused women's blood. You're fine, Jody. No reason to be sorry, honey. No reason at all to be sorry, my love. I just don't think she's in here. Accusations and examinations before local magistrates. I had so much other stuff I want to show you guys. How long is this? Good Lord. Okay, so we'll probably just read through this part of this, and we can always come back to this. I want to show, because the rest of this is accusations and examinations before local. I guess that's relevant. And then we're going to jump over to something else here. When Sarah Cloyce, the nurse's sister, and Elizabeth Bassett Proctor were arrested in April, they were brought before John Hawthorne and John Corwin at the meetings of Salem Town. The men were both local magistrates and also the members of the governor's council. Present for examination were Deputy Governor Thomas Stanforth and Assistant Samuel Sewall and Samuel Appleton, James Russer, and Isaac Addington during the proceedings. Objections by Elizabeth's husband, John Proctor, resulted in his arrest that day. Within a week, Giles Corey, Martha's husband, and a convened church member in the Salem town, Abigail Hobbs, Bridget Bishop, Mary Warren, a servant in the Proctor household, and sometime accuser and Deliverance Hobbs, stepmother of Abigail Hobbs, were arrested and examined. Abigail Hobbs, Mary Warren, and the Deliverance Hobbs all confessed and began naming additional people as companies. More arrests followed. Sarah Wilds, William Hobbs, the husband of Deliverance, the father of Abigail, Nehemiah Abbott Jr., Mary Esty, the sister of Cloyce and the nurse, Edward Bishop Jr., and his wife Sarah Bishop and Mary English. So what happened was they accused these people. And it was like probably like today's time. I mean, I wasn't around in the 1600s, but so they interrogated them. And you know, when something goes through constant battering, it's going to break. That's the laws of physics.
Hey,
I think that's what happened.
Mom, not to burst in, I apologize. I'm going to go ahead and jump off live for the moment. I love you guys. Thank you for having me.
Okay.
And enjoy the rest of your night. All right.
Okay, love you too. I know this ain't your jam, witchcraft and
No,
stuff.
it's just I'm just kind of burnt here lately. It's
Well, here, let me show you something funny before you go.
Oh, okay. You're gonna have to stop in the middle of what you're doing there.
Where it comes from, what it does. Why is it doing what it's doing? Get it out of my face. What about buttered sausage?
That's not your jam. It's not your thing. You don't like it?
It's not my jam. I don't buy jam. I buy honey, and I kiss it on the lips.
Let's talk about your cable ace horse.
That's our Dutchess.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Night, Minnie.
Dutchess.
Night, guys. You might see me streaming over on
Arctic
TikTok.
says good night.
I'm not gonna be really saying too much. I'll just be streaming my gameplay. I paid for this account, so I have to play for this account. So
okay. Love you. Thank you for hanging out.
All right. Love you guys.
Love you too. Fuzzy, you haven't seen our buttered sausage? Dutchess made that for us. Love our Dutchie. Oh, well, I don't know what. There it goes. I guess it helps when you hit the right button. Is this gonna go into this? Let's see. I lost my spot.
Doodlebug.
Agree to the person's spectrum reflected in them. Yeah, this is just going to continue on with. Here is a confession. Or a deposition, I'm sorry, not a confession. Isn't it cool how they kept this kind of stuff? I'm an innocent person. I've never had to do with witchcraft since I was born. I am a gospel woman, Martha Corey. The Lord above knows my innocence, and at the great day will be known to men and angels. I petition to your honors, not for my own life, but I know I must die, for appointed time is set but the Lord knows it is the possibility to be more innocent. Blood may shed. Mary Etsy. If I was the last moment I was to live, and God knows that I'm innocent. Elizabeth Howe. Well, burn me or hang me. I will stand in the truth with Christ. George Jacobs Sr. And this is Chief Magistrate. And there's one of the hangman's nooses. There's Doodlebug. Doodlebug. And then this was petition for bail of 11 accused people. I think it's so neat how somebody saved all this stuff. The personal seal of William Stratton on the warrant of execution on Bridget Bishop. It's a painting. They're showing the marks. Oh, look, she's got a birthmark. It's the devil's mark. This was Giles Corey was pressed to death during Salem witch trials in 1690 in an unsuccessful attempt to force him to enter a plea. This is one of the most famous men of the Salem witch trials, where they piled stones on top of him and pretty much crushed him to death. Amazing to have copies of those letters still. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm back. I will never pluck eyeballs while watching YouTube again. I jack myself up so bad. I need professional help to fix it. Oh, Lord. Avery. The stringing method is amazing if you have that like in your local mall or your local salon. Like it's extremely painful. Don't touch the lady doing it or gentleman doing it. But it's well worth it, and that lasts for like 2 months. I've never got a bad string job from them. It just hurts like hell. This is Calves of Confidence Concerning Evil Spirits. So that's really neat. This was Boston, printed and sold by Benjamin Harris in London Coffee House in 1693. Reverend Samuel Perez. This was a 19th century reputation of tibia by the children by Albert Ferris. Originally appeared A Popular History in the United States, 1878. So we're scared of what we don't understand. The Wonder of the Inferior World, The Trials of Several Witches, New England. Samuel Willard. That one's Joseph Dudley. This is part of the memorial of the victims of the 1692 witchcraft trials, Denver's, Massachusetts, Salem Village. In memory of those innocents who died during the Salem Village witchcraft hysteria of 1692. This is the Salem Witch Trials Memorial Park in Salem. This is a central figure in this 1876 illustration of the courtroom as identified as Mary Walcott. And this would have been one of the accusers, one of the girls. What the hell? I may do that because this is bad. I'm so sorry, Avery. Anything you have for Elizabeth Howe can I get those. Yeah, if you want to join our Discord, you can join our Discord or reach out to me via email. Nightbot should drop my email. It's TruCrime with typed out with sunshine at yahoo.com. There's Dutchess. Hi, sweetheart. Welcome in. Hope you're doing well. Hope your parents are doing well and your hand's feeling better and all the things. Yep, just reach out to me via email or Twitter, Facebook. I'm very easy to find, and I'll be more than happy to provide you anything I was able to find. So this is a effectual representation of the Salem witch trials. This is a lithograph. These are so cool. The way that they made lithographs, they were on a metal plate. The Puritan St. August St. Gaudens. Here's another depiction of the courtrooms. And there's the map that we looked at earlier. All right. So we'll go ahead and stop the screen. Kimber, you have anything you want to put in?
No, I'm good. I'm just listening. I'm fixing me some ice cream.
Oh, Lord. I was talking to you a while ago and you wasn't there. And Sean said, or Minnie said, oh, she went AFK. I should have known you was in the damn ice cream.
I can't help myself. It was calling my name, girl.
It was calling your name.
It was.
It was calling her name. Let's see. Sorry, guys, some of my links that I shared are not.
Hi, Dutchess. I hope your hand's doing better. Prayers to your mom and dad. Prayers to you, honey. Hope y'all are doing okay.
So this one's kind of cool. It's the Wayback Machine. If you guys don't know about the Wayback Machine's super cool. So nothing's ever actually gone from the internet. Sometimes you can use the Wayback Machine and you can pull up stuff that you wouldn't be able to pull up just from Google or Bing or one of the normal search engines that you use. She says, Dad is having a good day. Actually, me, not so much. My hand is hurting pretty bad today, but I'm going to make it. I'm so sorry, Dutchess. I'm so sorry. Well, thank you for coming in tonight. We're talking about the Salem witch trials and how the harm, speculation, misinformation, and all the things that happened back then seem to be repeating themselves in today's true crime. I felt it was an appropriate subject to go over tonight to keep me from going on a full rant. The Bible condemns witches. This is circa 560 BC. And then it's got some verses in here, which is Exodus 22:18. Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. Leviticus 20:27. A man or a woman that hath a familiar spirit or a wizard shall surely be put to death. They shall stone them with stones. Their blood shall be upon them. And then it goes on to tell you that these are Old Testament, the laws of Moses. Circa 420, St. Augustine argues witchcraft is an impossibility. St. Augustine of Hippo, the influential theologian in early Christian church, argued that early 400s and God alone could suspend the normal laws of the universe. In this view, neither Satan nor witches had supernatural powers or were capable of effectively invoking magic of any sort. It was the error of the pagans to believe in some of the divine power of God. Of course, in witches and indeed powerless, the church need not overlay concern of itself of spells or other attempts of mischief. The late medieval church accepted St. Augustine's view and hence felt little need to bother itself with tracking down witches and investigating allegations of witchcraft. And then here's a depiction of St. Augustine. In 1208, Satan becomes a sinister following Pope Innocent III's attack on the cathedral heretics. It says in 1208, Pope Innocent III opened an attack on the cathedral heretics who believed in the world in which God and Satan, both having supernatural powers, were at war. The church attempted to discredit the cathedral belief of spreading stories of heretics actually worship their evil deity in person. Propagandists for the church depicted cathedral kissing the anus of Satan in the ceremonial show of loyalty to him. As a result of the church's sustained attacks and the public's understanding of Satan moved from that to a mischievous spoiler of deeply sinister force. Well, I guess if you kiss the ass of Satan, that's a way to rile up the whole town. You sent me an email. Perfect. Thank you so much, honey. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's just easier that way because that way I don't lose you in the mix of things. Make sure I don't miss anybody. All right. This is talking about leading people into temptation, which, that's not anything of history. That is of today, where people are still led into temptation. The mid-1400s, witchcraft trials erupt in Europe. So this is what I was talking about at the beginning of the live. This was something that happened in the mid-1400s, which turned around and came right back here in the 1600s, in the land of the free, the New World. Dutchie says, I'm very familiar with the Salem witch trials. My great-grandmother was a bishop. They were from Massachusetts. A sad situation. Yes. Thank you so much, Dutchess. That's awesome. I mean, it's not, the whole thing's not awesome, but that's awesome that you have family that's associated. Many adherents of cathedralism, I can't speak tonight, y'all. Catharism, feeling the Papal Inquisition launched against their alleged heresies, had migrated into Germany and the Savoy. Torture inflicted of the heretics suspected of magical pacts and demon-driven sexual misconduct led to alarming confessions. Defendants admitted to flying on poles and animals to attend assemblies presided over by Satan appearing in the form of a goat or another animal. Some defendants told investigators that they were repeatedly kissed by Satan's ass to display, well, it says anus, but we're just going to put that in there, of the loyalty. Others admitted of casting spells on their neighbors and having sex with the animals and causing storms. The distinctive crime of witchcraft began to take place. And then it goes on to tell you some, Scotland. Suspected witches in Scotland were 1591. In 1606, Shakespeare's Macbeth was performed, greeted by 3 witches. In 1640, witch hunting after major outbreak in France begins to decrease. In 1643 to 1645, the largest witch hunt in French history occurred. During those 2 years were 650 arrests in Languedoc alone. The same time was the intense witch hunting in England. An English Civil War created the atmosphere of unrest and fueled haunting, especially under Matthew Hopkins. The 30 years was a conflict and rage in several European states from 1618 to 1648 following the attempted rebellion of the Protestants in Bohemia from the Roman Catholic Habsburg rulers, produced slaughter and suffering, and sparkled additional witch hunts. The number of trials began to drop sharply. However, in the late 1640s, Holland, for example, was by 1648 the tolerant society that had done away with punishments for witchcraft. And then there's burning witches at the stake over here. England executed its last witch. In 1682, Temperance Lloyd, a senile woman from Bedford, became the last witch ever executed in England. Lord Chief Justice Sir Francis North, a passionate critic of the witchcraft trials, investigated the Lloyd case and denounced the prosecution as deeply flawed. Sir Francis North wrote, "The evidence against them was very full and financial, but under their own confessions exceeded it. They appeared to not wearily of their own lives, but a great deal of skill conflicted themselves." North's criticism of Lloyd's case helped discourage the additional prosecutions in which shifted from side to side of the Atlantic from the other. Outbreak of hysteria in Salem is 1692. The Enlightenment, reason, and skepticism to humanitarian, each of which defeat the superstitions of an earlier age. The Enlightenment suggestions that were empirical evidence of the alleged witches caused real harm and taught the use of torture and forced confessions was inhumane. What? Not inhumane. Let's see. I think if you want any I think if you want any info on my great grandmother, that would be awesome. Thank you so much. It was about money and power. Yep. Captain Jenks says, "I've been to Boston a few times. I enjoy the museum and the history of and of course the bars. Bridget Bishop was the first one to be executed." Hi, Angel. Thank you so much for being here. Darn, I'm late. Hi, everyone. Hi, Angel. Thank you so much for being in here. That's correct. My 9th great aunt was Elizabeth Howe. So we have 2 descendants in the chat. I'm so honored to have y'all here tonight. Says above. Captain James can't be Boston, UK. That's all sheep and fields. No, Boston in Massachusetts, Angel. Over on this side of the pond. So this is where the source link is famous American trials with Salem witchcraft. So this tells the events, which some of this we've probably already went over. Yeah, we went over all this because a lot of times what comes from Wikipedia, which I usually hate using Wikipedia, I usually start with one of these first, but my links got all out of whack. This is actually the one I wanted to read to you guys, but a lot of the information's copy and pasted into Wikipedia. But again, I'll be more than happy to provide this to anyone that would like to see the information. And then here, this shows the list of who all was killed when accused with the wizard or witches. Male witches were often called and pressed to death on September 19th, where he failed to plead guilty or not guilty. And this goes on to list everybody. Like I said, the Wayback Machine is amazing. Like, you can pull so much information from the Wayback Machine. And then you have the examination of the nurse. And this goes into like a transcript. Isn't that really neat? John Hawthorne. Link to the trial. And this goes on, shows you illustrations, and then it goes into the different stuff. As I said, I'll be more than happy to share this with anybody that would like that link to be able to do research. Hi, Mystic Butterfly. Thank you so much for being here. I apologize, guys. There must have been a bagooger out there. It's very interesting stuff, isn't it? I've never connected until we started doing Ancestry 10 years ago. Ancestry is so awesome. My descendant has paintings in a museum. I think it's Boston, Stinton, and Painter of the Light. That's really cool, Angel. Thank you so much for being here. Hi, Mystic Butterfly. Thank you for being here, honey. I found out mine over 10 years ago. That is very, very cool. Very, very, very cool. Very, very, very cool. Very cool information. All right, let's see. Of course, my Discords want to throw me out. Why it does me like that? It always wants to toss me out. Then I have to go back in. Thank you guys so much for being here, and thank you so much for your patience this evening. I'm usually a lot more prepared. I had a pretty busy day today, and I'm trying to make sure everything's all situated for the car show and working on literature and things and resources and things to be able to present while I'm there. So I'm super excited about that. I'm really I want to be early. I don't want to be late. So I'm trying to do everything that I can. So that way, whenever the day comes that I have to go and actually set up for the car show, I'm not in a panic when I get home and trying to put all the things together and get everything going. I'm not a perfectionist by any means, but when it comes to my missing families, I want it to be as perfect as it possibly can be. So it's just a little stressful. Just a little stressful. Oh, you're good, honey. I'm sorry you're not feeling well today. I'd say there's something in the water. I think it's something in the weather. I think it's something in the weather. Something in the weather. Something's creeping in the weather. Well, this is super cool. I'm actually going to pull this up before I show this other thing that I have here. Hopefully Molly doesn't mind me sharing it with you guys. Okay, yeah. Thank you, honey. I should have probably asked you if it was cool to show this, but I just took it upon myself to pull it up on the screen. This is Molly. So Molly's relationship to Elizabeth Howe, the third wife, the wife of my third cousin, 11 times removed. So that's super cool. The relationship to Rebecca Town, the wife of my second cousin, 13 times removed. The relationship to Sarah Averill, the wife of my sixth cousin, 10 times removed. And the relationship, why did it do that to us? The relationship to Bridget Plaffer, the wife of my third cousin, 12 times removed. Thank you, Molly. That's super interesting. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, that is.
That's super interesting. You got to put a warning label in there. This is for public consumption. Don't share this, Molly, because I see you send me stuff and I get all excited. And I'm all like, oh, what'd Molly send? Let me pull it up for everybody. Is it a new cougar? So we have 3 descendants of the Salem witch trials. We have Dutchie, and we have Gyps, and we have Molly in chat that we know are descendants of the Salem witch trials. That's freaking amazing. I love that. I love that. I know the other night when I asked if people would be interested in the Salem witch trials, that we had some people that said yes. We actually had several people in chat that said yes, they thought that would be super interesting. So I thought we would do this tonight, and then we'll talk a little bit about how history repeats itself. I won't keep you guys too long because I know a lot of people have to work on Mondays, so I don't want to keep everybody. Sarah Averill as Sarah Wilds and Bridget Bishop are the same as Plafford. That's so cool. Bridget Bishop was the first woman that was executed. So who was Bridget Bishop? Unfortunately, today she is the most relegated to the realm of familiar names connected with the Salem witch trials, but few knew her story. Today, I'd like to change all of that. What followers in a depth exploration of Bridget Bishop from her birth to her ultimately untimely death as the first victim of the Salem witch trials. Quick highlights from Bridget Bishop's life. How old was Bridget Bishop when she died? Bridget Bishop was 60 years old when she died, so she was a young woman. Bridget Bishop's ghost. Bridget Bishop's ghost had reportedly been haunting the area around Turner's Seafood and the Hawthorne Hotel for decades. Both sides are adjacent to where the apple orchard would have been located. That's interesting. Are these clickable? Ooh. You guys know how my internet is, so it might not load for us. Oh, Lord. It's 17 minutes long. Do you have audio? I just thought about that. I bet you don't have any audio, do you?
No.
No. Why would you have audio? Why would you have audio? Why would I click the right button? Why would I do that? Let's try that again.
Right, with Salem's official haunted bookstore, which
I was just being stingy over here and just listening to the audio all by myself. As Kimber would sing, all by myself.
That's right.
town filled with shops that claim true traffic and occult knowledge, how people believe that consumerism and hidden knowledge play so nicely together is beyond me, is saying something. Wicked Good Books is a quiet, unassuming little shop on Essex Street that most visitors to Salem will likely recognize. The shop maintains a nice collection of local books and never fails to organize its window dressing in exactly the way you'd want a New England bookstore to do it. Oh, and it's super haunted. Guests and employees have both reported instances of books flying off the shelves. Now, this isn't an entirely new phenomenon for Wicked Good Books either. The shop was formerly called Derby Square Bookstore and was rather infamously known for its floor-to-ceiling stacking system. Even in that store's 40-year run, there were reports of hauntings about. When the Derby Square Bookstore finally closed its doors, local lawyer Denise Kent stepped in to open another bookshop in its place. During the renovation process, Kent called in renowned paranormal investigators.
Dutchess says Bridget was also married to Thomas Oliver as well as Edward Bishop. I'm actually related to him and his first marriage, Hannah Bishop. Does that count? Edward was my ninth great uncle. Yes, it absolutely counts, Dutchess.
investigator Ron Kolek of the New England Ghost Project fame to check out the recently discovered tunnels beneath the shop in an effort to determine if there was indeed any support to the long-held local belief that the building was haunted. Kolek returned quote-unquote convincing evidence of human remains as well as 2 supposedly entombed runaway slaves. Now, I did look around for some kind of documented evidence of Kolek's hunt, but I had trouble finding any. So if you do happen to have some primary sources, photos, newspaper articles, whatever, about this particular event, please do let me know in the comments below. I would be fascinated. Chambers and basements, bunghole liquors is not just an irresistibly amusing thing to say, it's also a rather popular spot down by the water in the Pickering Wharf area. But before this liquor store was a hole for bung, it was a hole for cadavers. It served as a funeral home for some time, most notably during the Prohibition era. Now, don't get me wrong, I like a stiff drink every now and then, but I'm not sure I would go.
Bunghole liquors. Note to self, when I make it to Salem, I'm going to drink at Bunghole Liquors. It's crazy, I know, but you never know. I had no idea that Edward and the 3 kids, Hannah, before he divorced and married Bridget. That is so awesome. Kimber, what are your feelings of Bunghole Liquors?
I'm thinking a drink there. I would have a drink there.
It is great, Captain. Captain, did you go to Bunghole Liquors while you were there? I need to know the story behind that. I'm going to have to Google that. The things that keep you awake at night. I want to go to Salem so I can see it for myself. I do too, Dutchess. I want to go so bad. Like, that's bucket list right there. Salem, Lizzie Borden's house, and Australia, and Holland are like my 4 top 10. Like, out of 10, those are my 4 top. That is so exciting. And the thing, me being related to the Clampetts was exciting to me. Doodle, you're related to the Clampetts? Ma'am. You're going to have to put some information together, and we're going to have a live, and you're coming up here, and we're going to talk about how Doodle is related to the Clampetts, because that makes me happy. We do need a trip. Absolutely. I would love that, Dutchess. All right. I'll quit running my mouth.
Go to the lengths that Prohibition-era Salemites did to get one. Granted, they had to. With limited access, the owners of the funeral parlor decided to run a sort of tavern out of the basement. This was quite grossly the exact same spot where bodies were embalmed in preparation for their ultimate rest. After Prohibition was lifted and the parlor received its second liquor license, one of the original owner's relatives, who was actually a priest, suggested that the now governmentally permissioned liquor spot adopt the name that locals had taken to calling it during the Prohibition. You know that little hole in a barrel, like a barrel of whiskey or like a cask of whiskey, that little hole, that thing was called a bunghole in 1930 slang, and it commonly became shorthand to refer to the parlor without any interested parties knowing what the heck you were talking about. So instead of saying, yo, Brian, let's meet at the funeral parlor later and drink whiskey next to corpses, you could simply say, hey, bro bri, bunghole later, question mark? These days, shoppers at the bunghole claim that a female spirit and black cat both haunt the establishment. Perhaps they are the spectral remains of frequenters from the speakeasy era, or maybe the black.
All right, Molly. Are you like splitting yourself and going up here and haunting bunghole liquors? We know that's you on the screen, ma'am. You can't hide.
Cat could have been a stowaway from a recently docked pirate ship. Oh, you didn't know that Salem had pirates? Oh yeah, totally did. Speaking of which, one of those incredible areas that tourists don't generally explore when they come to Salem is the town's world-famous maritime trade industry. I know, it sounds really boring, but honestly, it is a really big, important, and pretty fascinating topic, way bigger than I can get into in this video, but here are the highlights. Following the Revolutionary War, many of the burgeoning seaport towns on the East Coast were financially decimated, totally blown apart by the war. Now, this was not true for Salem. In many cases, Salem's early maritime merchants actually came out richer than they were before the war. The reasons for this are pretty numerous, but a large part of it is definitely owed to Salem's natural harbor being absolutely perfect and a healthy spirit of industriousness being totally woven into Salem's cultural fabric from the very beginning. So after the war, many international traders were eyeing Boston as the most likely Massachusetts trading hub. The burgeoning Salem maritime elite needed a big plan to get them to avert their gaze toward them, and they needed it really quickly. Luckily, their ports were positively stuffed in Salem with armed trading vessels from the war. Thus began an era of maritime trade and privateering, which you could also call legal piracy, that vaulted Salem into the ranks of serious international trade player, competing even with the likes of Boston, New York, Philadelphia, and Charleston. In this era, the whole Pickering Wharf area became an infamous red light district of sorts. The reason why is pretty obvious. It's a long stretch of businesses and houses right by the ports. And as we've already discussed, Salemites are industrious like nobody else. So with the swell in privateering and an unending flood of incoming travelers from China, India, Sumatra, and Arabia, as well as whatever American ne'er-do-wells happen to have found their way to the Salem ports, Derby Street and the Pickering Wharf area, their businesses shifted to seedier enterprises to try and capitalize. One such establishment is present-day Mercy Tavern. Now, a few years ago, Mercy Tavern was called In a Pig's Eye, and the patrons of that place claimed to often hear disembodied voices, to see sea captains disappearing into walls, and be shocked.
You lived in a funeral home? That is so cool. That is so cool. That is amazing. Doodle says, or Doodle shit. Dutchess says, I want to go to my ancestral home in Scotland, smoke up in the Netherlands. But yes, Salem, Mass is on the bucket list too. And I want to go visit the Winchester Mansion. And so, oh, I do too. I do too. That's one of my top 10 too. I'd love to go to the Winchester Mansion. That is so interesting.
By sudden untraceable screams. Mercy Tavern is even reported to be linked by a secret network of underground tunnels that pirate-era Salemites would use to traffic illicit goods and stolen people from Salem proper to the oceanfront in an effort to whisk them out to sea on some dark vessel. Gee, what is it with Salem and secret tunnels? Many tourists' first indication that Salem's history might have a bit more to it than witches alone rests at the intersection of Essex Street and Hawthorne Boulevard. Now, this particular spot has 3 historically fascinating spots, all within a few block radius, and each come from a wildly different era of Salem's past. You got Crowhaven Corner right there on the edge, one of the most notorious and historically rooted, I suppose, witch shops in Salem. But then, within a few paces of Crowhaven Corner are our final 2 haunts for this video. Our second to last one reportedly inspired the following passage, an abridged performance of which I now humbly beg your indulgence for. No doubt I now grew very pale, but I talked more fluidly, went in with a heightened voice, yet the sound increased. And what could I do? It was a low, dull, quick sound. Such a sound as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I gasped for breath. I foamed, I raved, I swore. I swung the chair upon which I had been sitting and grated it upon the boards, but the noise arose over all and continually increased. It grew louder, louder, louder. And still, the men chatted pleasantly and smiled. Villains! I shrieked, dissemble no more. I admit that ye tear up the planks. Here is the beating of his hideous heart. You're welcome. Edgar Allan Poe was inspired to pen the famous Telltale Heart based on the murder of Joseph White at the Gardner Pingree House in Salem on the night of April 6th, 1830. The house is very much still a major part of the Salem scenery due to its location, so if you've been to Salem, you've likely seen this place, and if you've taken a ghost tour or two within the past, you might have even heard of the gruesome assassination that occurred within. On that early April eve, the 82-year-old sea captain and former slave trader Joseph White was asleep in his bed when a man crept in through a downstairs window and silently made his way up the stairs to the bedchamber. There he bludgeoned White to death with a club-like weapon fashioned by co-conspirator Richard Crowninshield. Very long and fascinating story short, John Francis, or Frank, Knapp, and Richard Crowninshield had occasion to believe that if Joseph White were to die with his will having disappeared, his considerable wealth would be spread out among his surviving relatives. As it turns out, one of those was Knapp's mother-in-law. So that explains why Knapp wanted White dead. He was trying to get a little bit of the money. But what about Richard Crowninshield? Well, it turns out he was just a bastard and everybody knew it. He frequented spots of ill repute and was known locally as disreputable. The 4 conspirators, comprised entirely of Knapps and Crowninshields, met at the Salem Common and planned the theft of the will and subsequent violent slaying. Unfortunately for them, none of it really worked out. Frank's brother Joe attempted to steal the will from an iron lockbox before the murder, but took the wrong document, which was, as White was old and not a complete idiot, already safe in his lawyer's lockbox. But the murder went off with the wrong document in hand, and afterwards a fascinating hunt ensued, and Frank Knapp was eventually apprehended as an accomplice to the crime. Therefore, based on the legal...
Poor Doodle. Doodle will never be the same after getting her genealogy back. Angel says, I live 3 miles from a castle, and when I lived in Conisborough, I was right next to a castle. That is awesome. Jip said I sent you info on Elizabeth, John Jackson Sr., and John Jackson Jr., all of my relatives through the Salem witch trials. Thank you so much.
System at the time, he was meant to be first tried. Richard was. But he found it out from a friend before his trial date could occur, and as a final insult to the legal system, Richard Crowninshield hanged himself before the authorities could do it. Now, this caused a bit of a problem at the time because the law held that the principal agent in the murder must be tried in order to pursue the accomplices, and they knew already at this point that there was at least one. Cue the legendary Daniel Webster. Now, honestly, this segment's already super long. This video's already pretty long, so I'm not going to go in depth with the whole who Daniel Webster was and why he's one of the most iconic Americans who's ever lived, but suffice it to say, his coming to this ordeal was a massive affair. He went on to deliver one of the most beautiful, elegant prosecutorial arguments in the history of my country's legal system, the world's legal system, still taught today in law schools, all in an effort to try and shift the principal blame for the now deceased Crowninshield nap. Webster was successful, and then a few months later, both Frank and his brother Joe were hanged. So now you got 3 out of the 4 total conspirators hanged. 1 by his own doing, 2 by the courts. The final conspirator, who was Richard Croninshield's brother, was never tried for the crime. Honestly, public fervor and interest in the crime had died off with the double hanging of the naps, and he didn't have that massive of a part to play in the crime anyway, so people just kind of looked the other way. But regardless of one of the co-conspirators never being brought to justice, the murder and trial were such that the echoes of them reverberated all the way even to New York City and influenced the likes of Edgar Allan Poe and Nathaniel Hawthorne, who was in his mid-20s at the time. Now, these days, the Gardner Pingree House still stands as a reminder of the brutal slaying and almost cinematic aftermath of it. Plenty of visitors report hearing odd footsteps, doors slamming. They see strange ghostly faces in the windows. Some even claim that on a certain night in April, if you listen very closely, you can hear the thwack of the club and the groans of an old sea captain as his life slips gruesomely away. Salem is a lot like a lot of other New England towns with deep histories in that it can be difficult to draw distinctions between historical facts and lore. Unfortunately, to even begin talking about the historical reasons behind our final haunting, we have to indulge a bit of that lore. Bridget Bishop was the first victim of the Salem witch trials, and she was, to put it mildly, somewhat of an enigmatic character in 1690s Salem. Now, the next video we are doing is all about her, actually, so if you are interested, please do check back with us for a long video detailing who she was and why I called her enigmatic. Anyway, our final haunting could really be subtitled A Tale of Two Orchards. Oddly enough, for reasons I don't really understand, Bridget Bishop's apple orchard is somewhat famous in Salem because both the or present-day Turner's seafood restaurant and the Hawthorne Hotel claim to be built upon the land where the apples once fell. Maybe they both were. I'm not really sure. Maybe I'll find out more as I research Bridget. Anywho, the hauntings of both of these locations begin, at least chronologically, with Bridget Bishop and her apple orchard. But in the case of the Hawthorne Hotel, she is just one of many specters that have reportedly haunted the establishment over the years. Visitors report seeing her spectral visage wandering through the halls, bringing with it the scent of freshly bitten apples. Now, she seems to favor room 612. Why that particular room? Well, I'm no numerology expert, but here's some guesses. She was hanged in 1692. There's an obvious 1, 6, and 2 right in there. She was killed on June 10th of that year, so that would be 6/10/92, which is also pretty close to 1/6/2. But this one is super interesting. If you actually add up all of the numbers in her death day, so 6, 10, 1, 6, 9, 2, you get 1708. Now, if you divide that number by 2.79, you get 612. What's 2.79, you ask? Well, it's a number that works for this scenario. Again, I'm not really an expert. But Bridget isn't the only deceased denizen of the hotel, rather famously the home of the Salem Marine Society. Now, again, I feel like I'm saying a lot this video. This is a topic that's way bigger than this conversation, but for our purposes here, know that many sea voyagers have made their way into somewhat hidden alcoves in the Hawthorne Hotel, and some of these reportedly never left. Sea captains, mariners, pirates, all have been reported in the Hawthorne. If I had to make a claim towards such a thing, I suppose I would say that the Hawthorne Hotel's probably the most haunted place in Salem in terms of the sheer variety and volume of the sightings. Why is it the most haunted exactly? I'm not really sure. You know, it certainly doesn't have as colorful of a history as some of the other places on this list. It was only built in 1925, which by Salem standards isn't really that old. Perhaps it has more to do with the venerable nature of its location and namesake. Everything about the Hawthorne, you walk in it, it just feels like Salem. It is, in my opinion, the most Salem of the Salem hotels. Perhaps its very Salemness and the transient nature of its inhabitants, both marine or otherwise, somehow create a liminal space between our material world and another less graspable one. I don't know, really, but I do know that the spirits here aren't just seafarers and apple pickers. Infant ghosts reside here as well. Room 325 is a cold spot of electrical faults, plumbing disrupts, the lights falter with no reason behind any of it. Maybe that is what's truly terrifying about the Hawthorne, the sheer variety of seemingly malevolent, inexplicable entities prowling its halls. Viewed through such lens, one almost longs for the comfort of a known ghost, a woman in the orchard, a drunkard in the cellar, an elderly victim in his deathbed, a merchant creeping through darkened tunnels. The lens of history reshapes each of these into even yet more maddening horrors, but none such as these are as chilling as the infant with no name, the slow, unexplained motion of a captain's wheel, touched yet revolving on its axis, the moans from nowhere going to no one. On hotel these and more, and wait for any and all who dare to bite the dead. Thank you so much for checking out this video. If you like the videos,
So hope you guys enjoyed that. And Gyps, I didn't get anything, so I dropped my email. Am I breaking up?
You were a little bit, yeah.
Okay. Gyps, I didn't get an email from you, so I dropped my email back in the chat. Try to send it again, honey, to that email. I'm glad you're enjoying Butterfly. It's very interesting. This is my email. You should be able to just grab it right out of chat. That would be awesome. Do a family heritage night. That would be really cool. Make sure I didn't miss anybody. No, I think I grabbed everybody's comments while that was playing. So that was kind of interesting. So then how did Bridget Bishop die? Bridget Bishop was hanged by the neck until she died. It is likely that her neck did not break as she suffocated to death. She was one of the first to be killed in the Salem witch trials. How many times has Bridget Bishop been married? Bridget Bishop was married 3 times. The first was Samuel Wassabill in 1660. He died in 1664, likely due to complications of the couple's voyage from England to America.
Hi, Mom.
Bridget
Are you gonna?
Oliver.
Are you sharing something with us?
Oh, son of a buck. Thank you, Kimba.
You're welcome.
I'm getting really bad about just keeping it auto. That'll probably work better. Hopefully you guys can see that. I think that's a great idea. Absolutely amazing idea. Thomas Oliver in 1666, he passed away in 1679 in his late 70s, and in 1685, Bridget married a preposterous sawyer named Edward Bishop. They remained married until her death in 1692. The first, the second, and the third marriage. When was Bridget Bishop born? Bridget was born in 1632 in Norwich, England, who accused Bridget Bishop of witchcraft. Throughout her life, Bridget was accused of witchcraft and thievery by many people. The accusations that led to her death were made by Mercy Lewis and Ann Putnam. I'm getting ready for a bed. Early appointment with my hand surgeon tomorrow, but I'm listening. Thanks so much for talking about this. You're so welcome, Dutchie, and thank you for being here, and I hope everything goes well at your doctor's appointment tomorrow. Keep us updated. Is a male word version of a witch known as a wardlock? Yes. Arctic says, this is amazing live, Mom. I've learned a lot I didn't know. Well, thank you. I'm so glad you guys are enjoying it. Yes. Good night, Dutchess, and many, many, many prayers. Thank you guys so much. You guys are amazing. We lift each other up. We lift each other up, and we keep each other in a positive light, and that's why we're so damn solid. Amazing human beings. Okay, for many years leading up to the Salem witch trials, Bridget had been accused of witchcraft and thievery, similar to others like Sarah Good and Tibia. Bridget was likely accused because of her social status and reputation made imprisonment or execution much more likely. It is her way of accusation of arrest provided kindling and proliferation of later accusations which reached higher up sociomatic hierarchies in Salem and the surrounding areas. Did Bridget Bishop have kids? Yes. A number of her children, by her first two husbands did not survive infancy. Her final child, a girl named Christian Oliver, with the second husband, did survive and lived up until adulthood. I hope you get the emails I forwarded to you. Okay. I'm going to play this, and while this is playing, I'll check and see if I got them, honey. Thank you so much for sending those.
Friday, June 10th, 1692. A cart rolls from the Salem prison southwest to a grassy hill just outside of town. The carriage is flanked on all sides by guards, some on horseback. Onlookers, anxious and excited about the events soon to come, follow behind the macabre procession. The cart crosses a bridge covering a salt marsh, then turns left and angles up to a nearby ledge. There are screaming girls everywhere. They cry out against a specter that beats them invisibly with a crooked, gnarled wooden crutch. Later, the owner of that crutch would find himself in a similar cart, headed toward a similar destination. The person in the cart today, however, is one of no small distinction. She was likely to have been accused of witchcraft in 1692's Salem. She had been accused multiple times in multiple places before. Her bewitchments supposedly went far beyond signatures and deaths. No, this person had supposedly killed using the dark arts. Her hands were bound behind her back. The bottom of her tied shut to stem the oncoming flow of human waste and fluids. The woman cried, begged, pleaded, and re-pleaded innocence. It didn't matter. The noose was placed around her neck. She was led halfway up the ladder. With one swift kick, her probably dangled there for some time. It was tense, blood escaping from every opening above, was awaiting its host. And then it was over. The crowd gathered out distance. Corpses buried in an unmarked mound nearby. Sheriff Corwin makes his way to the court clerk and declares,
I have taken the body of the then named Bridget Bishop and caused the said bishop to be hanged by the neck until she was dead.
The life of Bridget Bishop, an enigmatic Salem woman whose tragic and troubled life was met equally tragic and troubled death. She was the first killed by the court of Oyer and Terminer, the first push into the horrors of witch trials. Bridget Playfair was born around 1632 in Norwich, England. While her early life is shrouded in some degree of mystery, we do know that by spring 16, at the age of 28, married to a Captain Samuel Wasselby at St. Mary in the Marsh, Norwich. Bridget was a boy with Samuel that the couple named Benjamin. Sadly, Benjamin, like so many newborns of the age, died in infancy. Perhaps it was the heartache of losing their first child that spurred young Wasselby to take what was likely the most difficult decision they'd yet faced: transition to America. Bridget Wasselby arrived in Boston in 1664. Now take a second to imagine what this moment must have been like for the 32-year-old Bridget. She had just made what was certainly the most harrowing journey of her life. Crossing the sea took several months in many cases. Passengers were crowded together, crammed into tight quarters below the deck. As such, diseases like scurvy were rampant, scarce and lacking in nutritional value, and at any moment, the entire vessel could be overturned by privateers or raging in the Atlantic waves. Now imagine you're enduring all of this while pregnant, because at the time of Wasselby's voyage, Bridget most certainly was, with the second child, Mary. Either directly before, during, or after their journey, Bridget's husband died. The cause of his death is unknown, but it would become the subject of much speculation later. In any case, consider that by the time she stepped foot in America, Bridget had already lost or was about to lose both her first husband and her first child. And so she faced the new world entirely alone. Bridget gave birth to the couple's second child, Mary, in Boston in January of 1665. Unfortunately, Benjamin's sad legacy would continue with his younger sister, and Mary would also not live past infancy. By 1666, Bridget was finished with Boston and moved on to the place she would ultimately lose her life, Salem, Massachusetts. In July of that year, Bridget married Thomas Oliver, and on the surface, there was a lot of commonality shared between the two. He was also from the Norwich area. He had also lost a spouse. It was that he had been fortunate with his children. He had also had a much more storied past in Salem than newcomer Bridget. His first wife, Mary Lynn, whom Thomas had married in Norwich, then immigrated with to Salem, along with their 2 children, was not well liked. Unfortunately for poor Mary, she was a few decades before her time. She was a vocal supporter of one of the nation's first prominent abolitionists and the founder of the colony of Rhode Island, Roger Williams. She was also feverishly religiously independent and spoke out publicly against the religious order rapidly gaining a foothold in Salem. For these and other offenses, she was whipped, scorned, and tortured on a number of occasions, even in public. At some point before 1648, Thomas had returned to England, the cause of which was unknown. We do know that Mary's fervent attitude did not sit well within the conservative, highly puritanical early Salem elite, and in 1649, she was banished from the colony and forced to return to England to be with Thomas. There's no record of her leaving or arriving in England, but at some point before 1654, Mary was dead. What we do know is that Thomas Oliver was a savvy real estate entrepreneur, and so when he and Bridget were married in 1666, she came into vastly more wealth than she'd ever had before. She also became the stepmother to Oliver's fully grown children, who were still very much around Salem at the time of their arrival. One of these children would potentially become responsible for Bridget's death, but we'll get to that later. Up to this point, we've explored Bridget's past, but not her character. Since we know the end of the story, her arrival to Salem is as good a moment as any to begin laying out some of the reasons that Bridget Bishop ultimately became the first victim in the Salem witch trials. Now, please understand that what I'm about to say has to be framed within the context of the moment that Bridget lived within, not our own. You see, it seems that most of what doomed Bridget Bishop was her own character. In this way, she is distinct from many other victims of the trials who were seemingly accused for political or social gain. No one gained much from killing Bridget Bishop, except that her voice was silenced. And why would anyone want that? Well, when it comes to women, it seems Thomas Oliver had a bit of a type. Bridget was also notoriously difficult, independent, entrepreneurial, self-righteous, and quick to anger. These traits in a man like, say, Giles Corey would have endowed that man with a social status ranging from annoying to admirable. In a woman alive in the 17th century, however, these traits were absolutely deadly. In addition to her character, Bridget was also known for donning racier clothing than her Puritan counterparts. Now, this could have simply equated to enjoying and being willing to spend money on a wider variety of colors than the standard brown of the age. Still, the difference made her attract attention, and a few of the men whose attention she attracted would ultimately cause her murder. Perhaps it's no surprise, considering what we know of Bridget and Thomas up to this point, that their marriage was fraught with contention. Look at it from both sides. Bridget was in her mid-30s, which was not a spring chicken in Puritan America, independently minded and desperate to get her footing in this new land and finally begin her life in earnest. Thomas, who, by the way, was some 30 years older than his new wife, had seen what this community did to women like Bridget firsthand. He was likely desperate to rein her in, even as her spirit endlessly attracted him. This push and pull resulted in a lot of fighting, and I mean a lot. So much that neighbors and courts were frequently drug into their disputes. Mary Ropes of the world-renowned family even recalled seeing Bridget's face black, blue, and bloodied after one of the couple's infamous bouts. But don't think that Bridget was without fault either. Mary also later recounted that Thomas had confided in her that Bridget had also beaten him on a number of occasions, and considering what we know of Bridget up to this point, and based on the accounts of many later public sightings of mutual violence, this was most likely true. The marriage did bring something great into the world, though. In 1667, Bridget gave birth to a baby girl named Christian Oliver. Christian would be the first of Bridget's children to survive infancy. This blessing did little to cool the tensions in the Oliver home, though. 10 years later, Christian's parents were both sent to the court after a public dispute. They were ordered to stand for an hour back-to-back in a public marketplace with a paper on the foreheads on which was scrawled their offense. Thomas's daughter paid for him to escape this fate. Bridget, however, was not spared. The crowd jeered at Bridget Oliver as she stood bound and gagged with a paper pinned to her forehead. This would not be the last time that 17th century Salemites would cheer at her misery, degradation, and despair. In the subsequent few years, the rumors that would ultimately lead to Bridget's neck meeting the rope began. People reported seeing Bridget in their dreams, having strange interactions with her in public, and a slew of other mysterious events. One that would go on to have dire implications was with William Stacy. Their relationship began when Bridget visited young Stacy as he was racked with smallpox. The meeting must have gone well, for Stacy professed a great love for Bridget following the interaction. He later claimed that this infatuation was not at all natural. Once he'd recovered, he decided to repay her visit with one of his own. He did some work for Bridget around the Oliver home. She paid him 3 pence for his efforts. However, after he left the homestead, the money vanished from his pocket. Stacy, a typical man, told everyone of the strange occurrence. Not one to be a shrinking violet, Bridget confronted Stacy when the rumors ultimately found their way back to her. He admitted to spreading the gossip and dared her to object. She left in uncharacteristic silence. Keep that interaction in mind, as we'll be returning to William and the rest of the Stacy family very shortly. At some point around 1679.
Oh, wow, Angel. Thank you so much. That's so interesting and sad all at the same time. Paula says, I was born and raised in Mass. Captain says, every time I went to Boston in the Vineyard, I always think of Jaws the movie. Oh, Lord. Yeah, you guys do amazing with the Missing Poster Monday. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for everything you do. I love that. I really, really do. And Gyps, if you're still in here, honey, I didn't get an email, but what I did was I shut my email down. I'm going to open it back up, and then I'll see if it comes through like that.
9. Thomas Oliver, Bridget's second husband, died. He would have been in his late 70s, which was quite a long life for a man of his time. In spite of this, Bridget was accused, even at this time, of having bewitched Oliver to death. Having left no will, Bridget was made the executor of his estate, which included a large home near the meeting house in Salem town and an adjacent apple orchard, the contemporary location of which is supposedly quite haunted by Bridget's ghost. Bridget now had something she'd never enjoyed before: security. The land and everything on it was hers for the rest of her days. Salem town was booming, and she was in the heart of it all. Unfortunately, Oliver's estate carried with it crushing debt, and the following years with Bridget doing everything she could to manage the encroaching threat bestowed upon her. One such adjustment was transitioning the Oliver home to a sometime tavern, which she began operating soon after his death. There are a number of stories about the fun she had, staying up well into the night, laughing and playing games with the fellow residents of Salem town. Unfortunately, the tavern wasn't enough to keep up with the debts. For the rest of her life, Bridget would scrape by. A wave of rumors and accusations painting Bridget as a thief began. In 1681, Bridget was forced to sell some of her land to schoolmaster Daniel Epps. The arrangement between the two was presided over by Justice John Hathorne. I wonder if Bridget could sense, as she did what she needed to in order to get by, that the man presiding over this particular sale would someday send her to the gallows. If she could, she showed no signs of it. In the years that followed, Bridget's strength of character only intensified. As such, the now well-spread accusation of witchcraft and thievery increased. It was also around this time that another victim of the trials began to be accused as Burger. Perhaps the two knew each other. At this point, however, it's unclear. In 1685, Bridget married again to Edward Bishop, a prosperous sawyer living in Salem town. Unfortunately, there's little known about Edward, since there were in fact 4 different Edward Bishops alive around Salem at the same time. I like to believe in there some evidence that this marriage was a more peaceful one and supportive for her and her daughter. But again, we don't know. What we can say is that to begin their relationship, the newlyweds decided to either entirely tear down or severely renovate the home on the Oliver estate. John Bly and his son William were asked to assist in the effort. The Blys would later claim that during their demolition, they found poppets in the walls of the home. Poppets were handmade dolls, well-known instruments of the devil at the time. Their presence in the walls was regarded as a sure sign, according to the Salemites of the age, of witchcraft. One should keep in mind, however, that Bridget Bishop was not actually present at the time the house was built. Oliver's first wife, Mary Lehman, was. So it's equally, if not more likely, that either she or any of Thomas Oliver's female children actually stowed the poppets. At any rate, this piece of evidence would later come back to assist in dooming Bridget. The beginning of the end for Bridget centered again around the Stacy family. The elder Stacy, Thomas, ran a mill near Bridget's home. In the summer of 1687, a piece of the machinery in the mill, known as a mill brass, went missing. By today's standards, this was just an innocuous bearing made out of brass. But in 17th century America, this was quite a valuable object to have suddenly disappeared. So valuable, in fact, that if you ran a mill and one did go missing, you likely would suspect that it had been stolen. And Thomas Stacy did exactly that. He instructed his son, William, to run to the local pewterer, Edmund Dolbeer, and inform him that the mill brass was gone so that he could be on the lookout should anyone attempt to sell the brass on the market. Keep in mind that William Stacy is the young man who was racked with smallpox and expressed no small amount of admiration for Bridget Bishop years earlier. A month later, Bridget and her now 20-year-old daughter, Christian, were weeding in the garden when Christian stumbled upon the brass. Christian took the item to Edmund Dolbeer to identify it. Presumably, the pair had a mind to return it to its owner, but simply didn't know what it was. Dolbeer then informed the Stacys of the mill brass's whereabouts. In December of that same year, the bishops were brought before the grand jury on suspicion of having stole the mill brass. In court, Thomas Stacy claimed that he had gone to Bridget's home and confronted the presumed thieves. While there, Bridget supposedly fell to her knees, admitted to the crime, and begged forgiveness. Thomas Stacy claimed Bridget repeated this apology some weeks later at his mill. That was all Justice Stephen Sewall, a nephew of one of the Salem witch trials judges, Samuel Sewall, needed to hear. He issued an arrest warrant for Bridget Bishop so that a higher authority could try the case. In March of 1688, Bridget stood trial before Justice John Hathorne. She claimed Stacy had never been to her house and she never confessed. She had seen him at his mill sometime later, but claimed she didn't confess there either. And the court decided a full trial was necessary and issued one to begin in Ipswich. Bridget was to be committed to jail pending her hearing. Fortunately, she was bailed out by Edward and a family friend. Her case in Ipswich was forgotten, dropped, or dismissed. We're not sure which. But it is clear that the bishops don't seem to have suffered any punitive harm from the affair. Unfortunately, this would not be the end of the Stacy and Bishop clash. In 1690, William Stacy's daughter Priscilla died in infancy. The younger Stacy suspected, and was very vocal in his suspicion, of Bridget Bishop. There remains some vagueness about why exactly Bridget Bishop was accused of witchcraft for the final time. One theory suggests that one of the remaining Oliver children was quite upset about Bridget having inherited their father's land, and so, through back-channel connections, ensured that Bridget's name was on the lips of the accusers. While this certainly sounds plausible, it didn't actually need to have happened for Bridget to have been accused. As we've covered already, Bridget's reputation as a thief, harlot, and witch had been established in the region for decades already, so there were no shortage of people who testified against her in the hearings. And these new accusations, the ones that would lead to the Salem witch trials, were also well dug in by the time Bridget Bishop was arrested. But those accusations began relatively far away from the bishops. Bridget's home was in the heart of the urban Salem town, while the teenage girls that began the accusations were in the adjacent rural community of Salem Village. Apart from Alice Parker, there's no indication that any of the more prominent accusers or victims in the Salem witch trials knew Bridget personally before she was accused. But the likelihood that they had heard of her was remarkably high. She was, unfortunately, among a handful of Salem women whose reputations for darkness had preceded them for decades. Whatever the case, Bridget Bishop was arrested alongside Mary Warren, Giles Corey, and Abigail Hobbs on April 8, 1692. She was carted to Salem Village and held in a meeting house overnight. By the time her hearing came the next day, she was entirely astonished, though not surprised, I'm sure, by the otherworldly accusations being lobbed against her. Enough evidence was found that Bridget was held in captivity and then pushed forward into the actual trials where, again, she knew almost no one. Her date in the court of Oyer and Terminer is one of the most enigmatic in the trials. She held her own, denying claim after claim, dismissing the feverish hysteria around her. She had seen this before. She had been here before. But she hadn't been here with these people. Another Salemite's coat was torn. An accuser seized the opportunity, claiming Bridget's spirit had ripped it. Bridget denied the claim. And then a bit of legal argumentation tripped her up. Confused, Bridget attempted to reorient her defense, but the men trying her were too clever, too educated, and too well-versed on what the watchers in the pews wanted to happen. Faced with the ultimate price, Bridget chose to preserve her dignity rather than to admit she had been beaten. The girls raged in her presence. They shouted accusations. Justice John Hathorne spoke up.
Do you not see how they are tormented? Why, you seem to act witchcraft before us, by the motion of your body, which seems to have influenced upon the inflicted.
I am innocent to a witch. I know not what a witch is.
How do you know, then, that you are not a witch?
I do not know what you say.
How can you know you are no witch, and yet not know what a witch is?
It's here that Bridget has a chance to see she simply misspoke, and she doesn't understand what he means to fall to her knees and beg for mercy. It's here that she just might, have the slenderest chance to save her life. But no, that's not who Bridget Bishop was. I am clear. If I were any such person, you should know it. In effect, Bridget basically looked one of the head authorities in the Salem witch trials in the eye and said plainly, if I had magical powers, I'd be using them on you right now. That was all the court needed to hear. After a few final questions, her trial was over. She was returned to the Salem jail. On June 10th, 1692, she was led to the gallows. She was the first to be hanged. Unfortunately, in the years since, her legacy as one of the brave few who stood up to the court has been overshadowed by others like Giles Corey and John Proctor. This is largely thanks to her characterization by Arthur Miller in The Crucible and other fiction and film writers. Bridget has been relegated to the ranks of the victims whose names we know, but stories we don't. When I look at Bridget Bishop's life, I see a courageous woman, one who dared to be herself in a time when such an act opposed the burgeoning fundamentalist mentality of the Puritan colony. I see someone who didn't break, even when she was tempted to it. I don't see a martyr or a perfect victim, but I do see someone worth remembering as more than just a somewhat vaguely familiar name connected to the Salem witch trials. Bridget Bishop lived a hard life in hard times and paid the ultimate price for it. But in the end, she had her land, she had her family. Far removed from the country of her birth, she had a chance to make something of her life, and she took it. She remains, in my mind, one of the most inspiring and fascinating victims in the trials, and I very much hope you agree. Thank you for checking out this video. We're going to be going person by person in.
Well, I'm on mute. So I hope you're enjoying the show tonight. Gyps, I'm still not getting an email from you. If you have Facebook or Twitter, either one, you can send to me that way. I don't know what's going on with the email, but it's not coming through on my side. I would copy and pasted your email and have the subject on it. It says it's sent on my end. I never did get it, hun. I'm so sorry. Big dig going on, all that stuff. Yeah. Hysteria. Absolutely. Where's Doodle? I don't see Doodle. Is Doodle still in here? Oh, Sunday Doodles. Okay. It's like I didn't see Doodle. Stayed at the Boston Harbor Inn. We were just finishing it so long time ago. Sure I didn't miss it. Phil, I actually got here before you closed. I'll have the usual. Make it a double with tequila chaser. No handlebars. Welcome, Phil. Thank you so much for being here. You have Facebook? Yeah, send it to me on Facebook. Nightbot will drop it, but I'll grab it for you and put my link in here. So that way you don't have to go look for me. This is my Facebook. Shit, let me make sure I didn't send you the wrong one. No, this is the right one. I'm not sending it to you, but this is my Facebook. So it should look like this. It should look this. If you send it to me through Messenger, I'll get it for sure. This is my Facebook books. You guys know it's mine. It's all the missing flyers on there. And of course, I promote the lives on here for a lot of different things. So you got the advocacy that's coming up. How exciting is that? Volunteers needed. There's audit. Oh, Mama's been contacted by a missing person. Thank you all for sharing. That's so awesome. AJ Sloan. Guys, Doodle and Arctic both have covered this. Arctic had AJ's sister on panel. Definitely go and replay crew that live. It was amazing. There's the car show. So yeah, you should see this. Let me pull this down. Let me pull it down before it pops open. Okay. Sorry, I'm going to open it on this side. I don't want it because I'm sharing the whole screen, so it'll share everything. And that's a good way to dox somebody. And we don't want to do that. Pop up on this side. Come in. It'll take Facebook just a second to load here. So yes, a number of her children lived in, survived, did not survive. We went through that. Coming to America. There we go. Perfect. How do I get you off of that? Yes. Got it. Got it. Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. James, pull that up. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with my email. But I did get it through Messenger. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We will take a look at that next. I got it, Jips. Thank you so much. Make sure I didn't miss anybody. We're all, yep, I got it. I got it. Perfect. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So Bridget Plaffer was born around 1632 in Norwich, England, while her early life shrouded in some degree of mystery. So this, okay, so this was just his, what he used to narrate his video with. So there's another map. That's different than the one we looked at a few minutes ago. What we know about Thomas Oliver, her second marriage, the rumors of witchcraft, No Country for Free Women. It's her third husband. So this is super exciting as well. I've had you guys here for 2 hours. So we went over who Bridget Bishop was. So that was super interesting in this channel here, Paranormal Salem. Okay. So now we're going to pull up this other information. Oh, looks like my computer froze. This. Thank you, Jips, so much for sending this. So this is from Jips, guys. So this is amazing that we have this. So this is the complaint of Ephraim Foster, Joseph Tyler against John Jackson Sr., John Jackson Jr., and John Howard. It says Ephraim Foster of Endeavor and Joseph Tyler of Boxford confidant the Majesty's Justice of Peace in Salem against John Jackson Sr. and his son John Jackson Jr. and John Howe, all the town rally of lovers, for what they have every of them committed several acts of witchcraft upon the bodies of Martha Spragg and Boxford and Rose Foster of Endeavor, single women of their great hurt, and said that Ephraim Foster and Joseph Tyler Doe, by presence of oblige themselves to Joni and severity of the Sovereign's Lord and the Lady King William and Queen Mary, in full wholesome of £100 bond current money of New England, the condition that is to prosecute the above complaint of effective a law directs. Oh, cool. And then we have documents. You guys know I love documents. Isn't that neat? I love how all this stuff was kept. And you know, you'd be surprised at how much stuff was found in like basements and boxes and things like that. That's so interesting. And here's the examination.
It's extremely interesting.
I love the document side of it. She says John Jackson Sr. was my 9th great-grandfather and John Jackson Jr. was my 8th great-grandfather. That is amazing. Isn't the docs amazing? Oh, I love it. Documents just make me happy. I love documents, especially like historical documents. Like I have a totally off subject, but I have a Civil War map that my dad found in a barn in Kentucky, and it's a legit like piece of history, and it's one of my most prized possessions. Like I absolutely love it. But it's a hand-drawn map of Eastern Kentucky and Virginia. Super exciting. Wow, this is really interesting. Thank you so much for sending this to us. These are the indictments. That's so neat. And just look at the handwriting. It's so beautiful. Like, that is so beautiful. You guys don't get to see my chicken scratch. You don't get to hear me have issues.
They wrote in calligraphy a lot back in those days.
Isn't that pretty, though? I mean, like, I know it's a horrible situation. By no means am I bringing any light to what they did, but look how beautiful that writing is. Like, it's like when I lived in New Mexico, my neighbor, she was a Hispanic lady, and she would yell at her husband, and it would sound like the most beautiful thing you ever heard. But she'd be calling him a sumbitch. I'm glad I could get the documents to you. Thank you so much. I am so like appreciative of that. Look, you're totally speaking Lisa's language. Yes, thank you so much for sharing. Fountain ink pen's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I use the
Phil
old
is
fountain
awesome
ink
with that.
pens too. Fountain ink pens too.
We love Phil. Phil's our OG here. We love Phil. Thank you so much, Phil, for coming in. I haven't seen Exotic tonight. We started later than we do normally, though. That's so interesting. Thank you so much for sending that. That's so interesting. And then this is the history page. It says in Salem's 1692, the events took place in the town of Salem and nearby towns in Massachusetts will forever be regarded as our young nation's most tarnished moments in history. We won't forget. We can't forget. Since 1999, the site served as a chronicle of events that took place during the darkest moments in U.S. history: witchcraft, voodoo, free speech, constitution, political agendas, personal vendettas. Those all had question marks behind them. The website covers plenty from scholarly perspective, detailing of the events that led it what was widely regarded as a judicial travesty of the biographies and affiliated the accused of the victims. Have it all here. In 2007, we have added videos. Naturally, we have detailed timeline and a popular Salem quiz. The site's been featured on courttv.com, CBS News, Discovery Channel, but is also a site that features we present the facts. Will hopefully come your own conclusion. Delve deeper into the Salem witch trials at salemwitchtrials.com. Ooh, what's the quiz? I'm such a nerd. Oh, do you guys want to do the quiz? Answers will appear in a new window. How many people were formally charged with witchcraft? Now I've read England and America. Was it 64, y'all? Was it 64? I think so. Let's see if that was right. Wrong answer. It was not 64.
I think it was 140.
We're going to try none of the above.
I think it was 140.
Was it 140? Kimber for the win. How many people were affected? 43, 83, afflicted, or none of the above. I think it was a low number, wasn't it, that come forth and said they were afflicted? Oh, my Lord. Cap said he was going to say 666. Elizabeth is on that list. Her last name is spelled Howell. Oh, that's so cool. Sunday Doodles, hello, pretty sure. We have not met either, so if I may, my name is Phil. Call me, well, they probably call me a lot of things. We love you, Phil. I'm going to go with none of the above. Watch, I'm going to be wrong, and I'm the one that's been sitting here reading all of it. What do you say, 43, 83, or 57? Paula says 200.
43.
43. Oh, Kimber has been paying attention, y'all. Where did the witchcraft outbreak originate, good Lord? Andover, Salem Village, Salem Town, or none of the above? There should be documents for Elizabeth. Let's see. I opened both of them. Maybe it's on this other page. Did I open that page? I thought I did. Oh, you know what?
I think it was Andover.
I didn't pull it over here. I got it, ma'am. I'm so sorry, love. Jups. My other one. Oh, now I done lost our. Okay, here we go. What'd you say? You said Andover. Sorry, wrong answer. Jip says the village. I'll go with the village. Overseas, yes, it originated overseas. That's absolutely correct, Phil. Who was the first afflicted girl? Abigail Williams, Betty Paris, Tippia, or none of the above?
None of the above.
Thought it was Abigail.
Maybe it was.
Let's try Abigail. None of the above. So it wasn't Abigail. It was the other little girl because it was Abigail and another one. So it had to be the petty Betty here. Sorry, y'all. I took a pot shot. Inappropriate. Which accused person was pressed to death for refusing to answer the court's questions? John Proctor, Samuel Waldwell, Alice Parker, or none of the above? Well, we know it was a man. Okay, I would bet Dorothy. Oh, Dorothy. Go to the ones I sent for John Jackson and find Elizabeth. I opened the wrong one. I've got it right here, honey. I opened the wrong tab the first time. You talking about this one? Or was it this over here? Is it on the side? Rebecca Williams. Elizabeth Howe. Okay. Cool. It was John Proctor, wasn't it? Nope. Sorry, wrong answer. And then we got Giles Gorey. That one's not in here, Paula. So we'll go with Phil says Slim Pickens. What the hell, Phil? Giles Corey, who was pressed to death. Good job, Paula. Paula for the win. Okay, so which year did the Salem witch trials take place? Was it 1692, 1762, or 1697, or none of the above?
1692.
What? Because I kept calling it 1992. Who was the youngest person jailed for witchcraft? Do we remember who it was? Look at this. Coming in for the win. Cassie, hey, honey. Look at this. Everybody coming in for the win tonight. Do you remember who it was? Dorcas Good, Martha Tyler, Mary Warren, or none of the above? Was it Abigail? Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Arctic. I thought it was good, wasn't it? This is what happens when you read stuff and you don't absorb it unless you read. For some reason, the name Good's coming. Correct. Dorcas Good was 5 years old when she was jailed along with her mother, Sarah. I thought that thing said 4 years old. It might have said 5 years old. What were some of the causes of the Salem witch trials? Family squabbles, Salem politics, superstition, none of the above, all of the above.
All of the above.
All of the above. Oh, shit. I put the wrong one. All of the above. Correct. Family squabbles, politics, and superstitions were all factors that helped contribute to the Salem witch trials. Who was the governor of Massachusetts Bay Colony during the Salem witch trials? Sir William Phipps, Samuel Sewall, Cotton Mather, or none of the above?
Phipps.
all,
William Phipps.
all. Governor. Lisa. Governor. Oh, we got a Sir Williams Fitz and a Sam Seawall. Okay, so Southern Gal says Phipps. Chip says Phipps. All right, we got the most votes for Phipps. We're going to try that one first, Phil, and then we'll try Seawall if it's not correct. Oh, correct. What Salem village separated from Salem town in 1752? What did Salem village change its name to? Decatur, Danvers, Devonshire, or none of the above?
Danvers.
Danvers. Let's see if that one was right. Correct. No one died a convicted witch again in America after the Salem witch trials. True or false? Milwaukee. It was not Milwaukee, Lisa. What the hell? Milwaukee. Oh, we got 2 votes for false. America, fuck yeah. Oh, we got false. Kimber, what's your true or false?
I say false.
False. Falsely accused. Sorry, wrong answer. So then it has to be true. Is he going to tell us why? Correct. It's not going to tell us why. We should know why. We just went through like 7 articles. Of the women listed below, which one was tried for witchcraft in 1680 but not convicted in that year? Sarah Good, Bridget Bishop, Elizabeth Proctor, or none of the above? Phil says vigilante. Toodle says, I'm so helpful. By the governor. Bridget. Yep, Jody went with false too. Sarah Good. We just learned about Bridget. Let's see, the first vote was for Bridget, so we'll check Bridget first. Lisa came in with the correct answer. Who was Salem Village minister during the trials? Cotton Mather, Joseph Green, Samuel Parris, or none of the above? You just say things. It's for the governor. Oh, look, even a broken clock. What the hell? What the hell, Lisa? Oh, we got Mather and Cotton. And Mathers. Paris. All right, so I love talking about the governor. So which one was first? Well, we had Mather first. Wrong answer. Our next vote was for Cotton. Wrong answer. What else do we have? Parish. Paris. Why do I keep wanting to say parish? Correct. So Chips got parish. Which afflicted girl in August of 1706 asked the congregation of her church for her forgiveness for her involvement in the Salem witch trials? Ann Putnam Jr., Abigail Wignams, Betty Paris, or none of the above? I like the governor. Governor. Marshall Mathers, Eminem? No, Captain Jenks. Don says, dang it. Putnam. It's Phil's vote. Nightbot's coming in with a positive. Kemba.
I say Abigail Williams, but I'm probably wrong.
Abigail. So we got one. We got a Putnam, two Putnams and a Parrish and a Williams. All right, who was first? Putnam was first, so we're gonna try Putnam. Correct. I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was fun. All right, and now here is the Elizabeth Howe executed July 19th, 1692. This is Gyps's family. Again, thank you for sending us this information. And here we go with some more documents. I love the documents. Oh, look how pretty. Oh my goodness. I wish I could read this. You something majesty of, yeah, no, that's not gonna happen. I'm gonna end up chopping up all these words. So pretty though. You're cheating off Phil? What the hell, Captain Paula? It what? Thank you. I'm glad that was fun. I love doing trivia. I love doing trivia. Oh, look, here's another document. Look, they marked it out. You're supposed to initial above that when you mark it out there. Elizabeth Howe. So interesting. Believe it or not, this is how my grandmother wrote. That looks almost exactly like my grandmother's handwriting. May 31st, 1642. I think that's what that says. 1642, 1672. I don't know. It was super, super interesting. Is this going to read it to us? Oh, it reads it to us. So you're their majesties named in hereby require that Elizabeth Howe, the wife of James Howe and Tossville husbandman, on Tuesday, next beginning the 31st day of May at 10 o'clock in the forenoon, ATT the house of Lieutenant Leflandel Ingersolls of Salem Village, woe stand charged with sundry acts of witchcraft done and committed on the bodies of Mary Walcott and Abigail Williams and others of the Salem village to their great hurt in order higher explanation relating to the above premises of therefore not to fail. This was dated May 28th, 1692. In obedience to this warrant, I have apprehended Elizabeth Howe, the wife of James Howe, and brought unto May 29th of 1692, have brought hearth unto the house of Defendant Nathaniel Inglesons, according to the warrant, as attested by me and from Wild's Constable for the town of Topsville, dated May 31st, 1692. And then this was the examination of her. And we saw the depictions of that in the painting. And then this is signed. Okay. It says Mary Lewis and Mary Wilcott fell into a fit quickly after examination came in. Said that this woman, explained it, had a pinched her choked this month. I don't know what the hell a chalked is. Had pinched her choke this month. And Putnam said that she had hurt her 3 times. What do you say to the charge? Here are them of charge with witchcraft. If it was the last moment I was to live, God knows I'm innocent of anything of this nature. Did you not take notice that when you look upon Mercy Lewis, she was struck down? I cannot help it. You are charged here. What do you say? I'm innocent of the things of this nature. If this is the first time you were ever accused, yes, sir. Do you No one Ipswich Hatch accused you? This was the first time I've ever heard of it. You say that you've never heard of these folks before. Mary Lewis at length spake and charged this woman of hurting and pinching her. Then Abigail Williams cried, Hath hurt me many great times, a great while. She hath me the book. Ann Putnam had a pen stuck in her hand. What do you say to this? I cannot help it. What consent you given? Mary Warren cried out she was pricked. Abigail Williams cried out that she was pinched of great prints were seen on her arm. Have you not seen the apparition? No, never in my life. Those have confessed that tell you used images and pence. Now tell us what you used. You will not have me confess to which I do not know. She took upon Mary Warren, and Warren violently fell down. Look upon this maid's, viz. Mary Walcott, her back towards the examinant. Mary Warren and Ann Putnam said they saw this woman upon her. Susan Sheldon saith with the woman who carried her yesterday to the pond. Sus Sheldon cried, an examinant to fit, as well as gasping her arm. You said you'd never heard of these people, not before the warrant was served upon me the last Sabbath day. John Indian cried out, Oh, she bites, and fell into a grievous fit, and so carried her into his fit, and was well upon grasping him. What do you say to these things? They cannot come to you? Sir, I am not able to give an account of it. Can you not tell them off from your body? I cannot tell you, I know not what it is. This is strange that you should do these things, and be able to tell how. The true account of the execution of Elizabeth Howe taken place in characters written by thereof, witnessed by Sam Paris. And then this is the list of witnesses. Samuel Perry, Timothy Perry, Deborah Perry, Sarah Andrews, Deacon, well, we'll read it from the other page because, okay, Samuel Perry, Timothy Perry, Deborah Perry, Sarah Andrews, Deacon Cummins, his wife, Thomas Heasons, the wife of Boxford, Joseph Andrews and his wife, Boxford, John Shearing of Ipswich, Joseph Stafford of Ipswich, Abraham Howe and wife, and John Andrews of Boxford. And then these were her indictments. Very, very interesting. And I guess they would sign on the back of it. That's what it looks like. The indictment for afflicting Mary Lewis. Deposition of Timothy Perley. Oh, wow. Thank you. That's very interesting. Thank you, Gyps, for sending that. It's amazing. Oh, Paula says she loves trivia. Cap says he loves trivia. Bad idea, Captain Jits. I've been put under the spell. They turn me into a newt. Oh, Lord, Phil. So do you know you're related? So do you know you're related via DNA? Lisa, I found out I was related before DNA. I was going through my tree, and it's all on my father's side. Which witch was tried for executed for more men or women? Women. Yeah. There was only, what, 5 men? This is what happens when you don't have enough access to a flat screen TV. What the hell? That's so awesome. I must offer a correction. Only about 20% of witches tried were men. However, the facts are slim. The true gender of all witches. Now, I'm just making shit up. Yeah, Phil, thank you for your input. We love you. How interesting is that? And then this one was Samuel Purley. It's not written as pretty, but it's still pretty handwritten. It's a horrible situation, but I'm just amazed with how these documents were saved. Like, this is amazing because, like, my grandfather was born in 1900. And, yeah, no. Was it 1900? 1899? Something like that. We're honestly really not sure. We know somewhere around in that time frame. And he didn't even have a birth certificate. But they were able to keep documents like this. Isn't that amazing? It's the statements. This is really cool. Jips, I think what we'll do is we'll just do a whole live on the whole thing. That would be really cool, and see if we can't find my graves. Because there's a couple of channels that I actually really enjoy watching. I know this is going to sound really creepy, but I actually enjoy watching these channels where they walk around historic cemeteries and they talk about like the different headstones and things like that. I know that probably sounds creepy weird, but what was in the well water back then, right? 20 to 25% is true worldwide, Lord. I also have a book about Elizabeth and her letters and stuff. That's awesome. That is amazing. You do find a grave stuff? Oh, that's awesome, Lisa. That is amazing. I'm like infatuated with, I know that sounds really crazy and weird, but when I was a kid, like I'm from a very old part of the United States. And when I was a kid, like we would go and we would walk through the woods and find like small cemeteries, like family cemeteries and stuff. And some of the headstones were like, you wouldn't even think it was a headstone. It was like a carved rock, and it would have like the name chiseled into it. It amazes me. Southern Gal said if it's weird, then we're both weird. I love those videos. Like there's one guy, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he does nothing but historic cemeteries. And I love his videos. And I think I've caught him live like twice. But I always like it, even if he just uploads. I'm a big fan of Replay Crew myself. So this is very interesting. Thank you so much for sending this information. I will save all this information. And I think we'll do a whole live on her one night. Because there's a lot. There's Rebecca Nurse's homestead. I would love to go to Boston and get you guys some live footage. Like that would be amazing to be able to do that. Oh, look, here's a headstone. Look at that. Oh, no. It's a memorial stone in Salem. Y'all, I got super excited. I thought we done found the headstone without having to look for it. Did y'all see that? Like the little kid in me was like, oh, look, a headstone. A short history of Salem was illustrated verbatim of Elizabeth Howe's memory. Oh, that's so neat. Oh, look. Yeah, we're going to have to do another live. We'll do a part 2 on this because it's almost midnight where I am. We will definitely do a part 2 because this is so interesting. Look at the threads in here. I'm a direct descendant. Wow, these would be interesting to read too. a good cemeterian. What the hell, Lisa? You're on a roll tonight. Look at the execution dates compared to the conviction dates. You no longer languish in prison so long if you were of noble descent. Shit, 1900 women be working from the farm, go into labor, give birth, cut the cord, carry the baby on one hand, go back to work, and probably lots of kids from that time on, right, Arctic? I used to go to the really old cemeteries around where I live. I enjoyed it when I was a kid. Birth record, right. I got you, Arctic. I'm going to Boston in July for True Crime Podcast Festival. Ooh, Lisa, we may have to get you to go get us some footage of the old cemeteries. The founder of the Ouija board's headstone is a marble copy of a Ouija board. That is awesome. Oh, that's so cool. Dude, we could do like a whole live on headstones. How weird would that be? Oh, y'all coming in for the win. Her headstone. What? Can I don't want to share my Facebook because I don't want to click off of it and your government name come up. So let me do it like this. Chips, thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm so honored to have you here in chat, and Dutchie and Molly and everybody that has descendants. Like, it's so amazing to have you guys here. I appreciate you more than you know. And thank you for the information. And if you would come back, maybe like next weekend, we can do like a whole show. I think that would be something really interesting. And then I have a really old case that I ran across that I really want to share with you guys too. So we may do like a two-parter. So this is her headstone. Elizabeth Howe hanged July 10th. Is that 10th? 1692. Look at that. How cool is that, you guys? You love talking about your ancestors. So if you want to, Gyps, and you feel comfortable, we'll do it next weekend. We'll do it probably next Sunday night. We'll do another, like a part 2 to this. And you're welcome to come up on panel 19, July 19, 1692. Thank you so much. Thank you. If that's something you would be interested in, like no pressure at all, but I'd be honored to have you up. You can come up and talk about your heritage. I think that would be really, really, really cool. Hey, Peggy. Thank you so much for being here, honey. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for sending me all that amazing information as well. I'll keep all that in my file. And then, like I said, next weekend, if you guys would like to, we'll you get nervous on panel. Girl, I used to go live at 1, 2, and 3 o'clock in the morning. That's how I met FarQ, my Australian sister, my Australian mod, was because I was a nervous wreck. Absolute nervous wreck. And like I said, no pressure. You're welcome to enjoy from chat. But I think next Sunday we'll do a part 2 on this because I really enjoyed this tonight, and it seemed like the chat enjoyed it as well. And we'll see if we can't come up with some more interesting information. I just thought it was really neat that something different to talk about, and it still kind of plays into what we do today and how the misinformation and the accusing and things like that brought to a witch hunt, which turned out to be the witch trials, where innocent women lost their lives. Peggy's going to get me and Doodle tanked with Bailey's she got for her birthday. Ooh. I can send you what I have and you can save it. That would be awesome. Thank you so much, Dawn. I'm glad you enjoyed. I'm sure I have a headstone from the 1700s on my channel on private. Ooh, if are you in our Discord, Angel? You can send that to me. I'm also on Facebook, Twitter. If you want to share, you can send it to me, and we'll definitely share that as well. Arctic's a trip. I love Arctic. I love all you guys. You guys are amazing for being here. All right, guys, it is after midnight. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss a show. And I will see you guys. Missing Poster Mondays, I don't normally go live because Dutchess goes live and does Missing Poster Mondays. And then Dawn has Missing Poster Mondays. So I generally try not to go live on Mondays. You guys are welcome. Thank you so much, Arctic. I'm glad you enjoyed. Mom, look up the prison camps in Massachusetts. Send it to me on Discord, Phil, if you have anything that you want to share specifically. If not, I'll do the research and I'll pull it up on what I'm able to find. But if you have something that specifically you want to discuss or talk about, definitely send it to me and I'll share it. Remember, guys, if you see something, say something. It takes a village to raise a child. We never give up. Kimba.
We never lose hope. Do no harm. Engage with empathy. You guys have a great night.
And I will catch you guys on the flip side.